guess we can get started. This is the study session on homelessness. I don't see a roll call here, but should we be doing a roll call anyway?
Yes.
Okay.
Councilmember Chow.
I'm here.
Councilmember Sinks.
Here.
And Councilmember Willie is not at the dais yet. Vice Mayor Paul.
Here.
Mayor Scharf.
Here. Okay, so our first item and only item on our study session is the report on homelessness. So we have our staff report.
Good evening, Mayor and Council members. My name is Carrie Husler. I am the Housing Manager in the Community Development Department. We are here this evening to present a report on homelessness as a priority-setting item on the current year's City Work Program. We have collaborated on this topic with the County of Santa Clara Office of Supportive Housing, West Valley Community Services, and De Anza College. Representatives from each organization have joined us to provide a presentation and answer any questions you may have. We will start with our first presentation from Erica Poveda from our planning team.
Good evening. My name is Erica Poveda. I'm Associate Planner with the Planning Division. Like Carrie said, today we will be discussing the report on homelessness. The City Council included homelessness as a priority setting item for the fiscal year 2019 to 2020. The City Council identified the following objectives for the work program item: to conduct an audit of services available for Cupertino's homeless residents, to confirm homelessness estimates in Cupertino, and to explore solutions for students. In order to achieve these objectives, staff met with the county, West Valley, and De Anza College to identify strategies and resources to assist the homeless. They've all joined us here today and will be each giving a brief presentation and are available for questions and discussions. As part of the work program objectives, staff met with service providers and created a list of some existing services available to homeless residents throughout Cupertino. This list is included as Attachment A and includes funding opportunities like the city's Housing and Human Services grant. The city annually releases a notice of funding availability and request for proposals for Community Development Block Grant, Below Market Rate Affordable Housing Fund, and General Fund Human Services Grant. And through these programs, the city provides funding to West Valley's Community Access to Resource and Education and Haven to Home programs. West Valley is here and can discuss these programs in more detail. The city is currently accepting applications for fiscal year 2020 to 2021 NOFA through February 7th. The County Office of Supportive Housing collaborates with numerous service providers, including West Valley. They are also working with Destination Home and the City of San Jose on the new 2020 Community Plan to End Homelessness. The county will be giving an overview of the community plan as well as their homelessness initiatives. West Valley has also joined us here today and will be giving a presentation on their local programs and services to address housing and human needs. Dignity on Wheels is a unique program that was launched in 2015 by Project We Hope to address the lack of hygiene facilities, such as showers and laundry facilities, accessible to homeless individuals. The program now serves 6 cities throughout Santa Clara and San Mateo counties. According to the 2019 point-in-time census and survey for Santa Clara County, the number of individuals staying in their vehicles has greatly increased since 2015. In response, some cities, including the city of Saratoga, have legalized rotating emergency shelters like the rotating Safe Car Park program. This program provides homeless individuals and families a safe environment to park their vehicles and sleep overnight and connects them with case management programs. The second objective of the work program item was to confirm the estimates of homelessness in the city. The 2019 point-in-time census showed the highest number of individuals experiencing homelessness throughout the county in over a decade, with approximately 9,700 homeless individuals countywide, which is a 31% increase compared to 2017. Additionally, 82% of the population was found to be unsheltered. In the 2019 count, there were approximately 159 homeless individuals within Cupertino alone. Compared to the 2017 count, the homeless population in Cupertino increased by 25%. Staff was also asked to explore solutions for homeless students. Staff met with De Anza College, who will provide more context on housing insecurity and homelessness among students, as well as their existing services that are available for all students. In looking at some additional potential initiatives throughout the region, staff came across the Home Match pilot program with UC Berkeley. The Home Match program pairs graduate students with UC Berkeley retirees who have vacant rooms or accessory dwelling units. The pilot program proved to be successful by providing several students with affordable housing and homeowners with additional sources of income. Another initiative was the proposed Assembly Bill AB 302, which would require community colleges with on-campus parking facilities to grant overnight vehicle access for sleeping to homeless students currently enrolled in the school. However, at this time, this measure is currently inactive. Staff also reviewed current initiatives by the state, private corporations, and local governments for additional strategies and resources. At the state level, Governor Newsom signed 18 housing bills into law in October 2019. One bill in particular that is aimed to remove barriers for housing programs is Senate Bill 744, which allows for CEQA streamlining for permanent supportive housing projects that are funded through the No Place Like Home program. Tech companies including Google, Facebook, and Apple also recently pledged to invest a combined $4 billion to help ease the housing crisis. As a local example, Apple announced in November 2019 that it would invest $2.5 billion to the state and nonprofit organizations to support housing projects. Some examples of local initiatives include San Francisco's Safe Navigation Centers, which provide temporary housing and connects guests to social services and housing assistance. Between 2015 and 2019, over 5,000 clients have been served at one of San Francisco's navigation centers. Cities including San Jose are also turning to tiny homes as a different form of temporary housing. And in December 2018, San Jose City Council voted to approve a pilot program for 80 short-term units on 2 tiny home villages, which are expected to open this year and run until 2022. Staff conducted a study session at the January 9th Housing Commission meeting. After receiving the report from staff and hearing from the county, West Valley, and De Anza, Housing Commission provided the following recommendations: to explore a home match program with De Anza College and the City Senior Center, to address the lack of hygiene services available to homeless Cupertino residents, to coordinate with the Via Shuttle program to provide transportation for homeless individuals to and from service providers, such as the Sunnyvale Shelter, and to increase the amount of general funds directed towards homelessness. The County Office of Supportive Housing, West Valley Community Services, and De Anza College have all joined us and will be giving presentations on their work on addressing homelessness. And we ask that the City Council can provide direction on strategies and resources to assist homelessness. And I will now turn it over to Consuelo Hernandez and Catherine Kaminsky with the county for their presentation.
And if anybody wants to speak on this item, please fill out a blue card. I mean, not the agencies, but individuals.
Good evening, council members. Thank you so much for having us here tonight. We've been asked to give an overview of the county's efforts to address homelessness, as well as our efforts to update our community plan to end homelessness, which we're in the process of doing right now. I'm Catherine Kaminsky with the Office of Supportive Housing. I'm our Continuum of Care Quality Improvement Manager, and I'm joined by
Consuelo Hernandez. I manage the Housing and Community Development team for the Office of Supportive Housing.
So we're going to provide a little bit of information about what we do, and to do that, I'm going to reference our supportive housing system map. When we talk about our homeless services, we talk about our supportive housing system. And what I mean by that is everything from homelessness prevention efforts to our permanent supportive housing services that provide long-term assistance. So we have Consuelo's team working on affordable housing development to build new housing to support our extremely low-income neighbors and folks that need permanent solutions. We have homelessness prevention efforts, which it provides financial assistance and light case management for those that are at imminent risk of losing their housing. We have outreach teams that engage with people on the street and act as an access point to our coordinated assessment system. We also have emergency shelters across the county serving people who need a safe place to sleep, have meals, showers, and other basic needs services. Both our outreach teams, our emergency shelters, as well as our network of providers across the county all participate in our coordinated assessment system. And what that is a one place or one assessment that is given to all individuals experiencing homelessness in order to prioritize them for housing. And that serves two goals: one, to match them with the right kind of housing for their needs, and also to prioritize the most vulnerable. Unfortunately, we don't have enough resources to meet the need as it is today, and so we use that system to prioritize those resources. In terms of the housing programs, we have rapid rehousing and transitional housing are sort of medium-term programs that meet needs of people in sort of the moderate range. And those are generally 6 months to 24 months of assistance, rental assistance, or a place to stay, as well as supportive services. And our permanent supportive housing are long-term permanent assistance in the form of supportive services, intensive case management, and rental assistance. So since 2015, our system has grown dramatically, and we have seen a lot of success. We've housed, at this point, as of September 30th, over 8,300 households were placed into permanent housing after accessing services in our system. That represents over 12,000 individuals because a lot of those were families with multiple members. We've increased our permanent supportive housing capacity by 72% and our rapid rehousing capacity by 114%. We've also increased our shelter capacity by 126% just in the last 4.5 years. We passed Measure A. Implementation is ahead of schedule. Consuelo is going to give you an update on that, and the apartments that we have built are underway. And we established a new homelessness prevention system that is coordinated, and we increased the capacity of that system by 340%.
Thank you, Catherine. Good evening, council members. Again, Consuelo Hernandez. I manage the Housing and Community Development team. I came here maybe about last year to talk about Measure A, just to share an update with you, and a fun fact about our first Measure A project that was funded and completed was actually in the city of Cupertino. The veranda, it was a partnership with your housing department team and, of course, you as a council. We are now in the third year of implementation, and thus far we've approved 21 new developments across 6 cities. We've allocated almost $250 million of the first bond issuance. The board has also approved a first-time home buyer program that includes $25 million, and thus far 11 households across the county have purchased a home through our program. On February 25th, the board will be considering the next round of Measure A developments, hopefully bringing that total closer to 30 new developments across the county. And as Catherine mentioned, through this collective effort, we are either in construction or working on financing of 1,612 apartments. And happy to answer any questions that you have on Measure A.
Thanks, Consuelo. So despite all of this progress, what we know is a lot of folks have moved from homelessness into housing over the last 5 years. The vast majority of them remain housed today. Our housing stability rates are extremely high, but we still saw an increase in homelessness across the county in Cupertino, as Erica mentioned. And the reason for that is more people are slipping into homelessness today than we're able to help. So what this chart is showing is the green bars are the number of households that we're placing into housing each month. And that ranges from 130 to 180 on average. But the households that we're seeing for the first time, accessing services anywhere across our system for the first time, is around 300. So for every one household that moves into permanent housing, another 2 households are becoming homeless for the first time. And so we know we need to be addressing that inflow into homelessness by doing new and innovative things. Our community plan to end homelessness, as I mentioned, began in 2015. We're at the end of that 5-year, and so we're in the process of updating it. We're thinking about this plan around 3 strategies. 1, we need to expand our prevention services and our housing programs, the ones that I talked about earlier, to better meet the need. We're still not able to meet the need of the folks that are currently homeless today. 2, we need to get at the root causes of homelessness through system and policy change. This is around things like land use policy, working with our safety net system to make sure that we are better identifying those that need housing assistance as they're accessing child welfare services or our SSA, our social services agency, and also increasing the opportunities for living wage employment. And 3rd, we know that we won't have enough funding to end homelessness tomorrow. So while we increase these efforts and while we develop all the housing that Consuelo was talking about, we need to work to improve the quality of life for those that are unsheltered today and create healthy neighborhoods for all. So the community planning process, like I said, is underway. We've been engaging in extensive community outreach over the last approximately 6 to 8 months. We do have a final public meeting this next Monday evening for countywide input into that plan. And we will be taking that plan for adoption. The Continuum of Care Board will adopt that plan probably in February. And for any cities that are interested, we would like to come out and ask for endorsement of that plan after you've had a chance to review it and look at the strategies. Just added my contact information here in case there are questions afterwards about anything that I've presented, but we'll stick around for questions as well. And thank you very much for your time.
We now have Sujatha with West Valley Community Services.
Just give me a minute.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council Member. My name is Sujatha Venkatraman, and I'm the Associate Executive Director at West Valley Community Services. I'm going to just pull out some highlights from the point-in-time survey that Catherine also talked about. But some of the interesting facts that we look at from that survey is the increase that we saw in Cupertino, which was 25%. More than 1/3 of survey respondents indicated that they were experiencing homelessness for the first time, and 67% had been homeless for a year. The number of people living unsheltered in vehicles increased nearly 3-fold. So those are some interesting data that we look at from the point-in-time survey to design our service needs. Other interesting data points are 81% were residing in Santa Clara County. 70% of respondents said they received supportive services and benefit assistance. 73% accessed meal services. 63% received bus passes, and 25% accessed drop-in services. What this kind of gives us an idea that they are connected to services in one way or the other in the county. This data just is for Cupertino, the numbers that I pulled from West Valley. So if you look at 18-19 data, 87 were new households served. And how we collect this data is intake. We ask them, did you live or did you sleep in Cupertino? So that's how we get the data. 141 individuals received laundry quarters assistance. This is the majority of our funding that we raised at West Valley We spend that money. This is raised through individual donation and the faith community. A lot of our residents, a lot of our homeless clients come in for laundry assistance. 134 clients access the food pantry. This is both Cupertino and the mobile location. Some of them are transient, they work or move around. We were able to place 17 homeless individuals or families in permanent housing. This is data from this year, just the last 2 quarters. 38 new households were served, 103 individuals received laundry assistance, and 104 clients accessing the food pantry. Currently, we have 10 high-risk homeless families who are enrolled in Rapid Rehousing Program, and 7 are housed. The Rapid Rehousing Program is it's a rental assistance for a period of 6 months to 18 months. It's a tiered system. We pay 100% of the rent for the homeless clients who are housed, and then eventually the client will pay the 100%. So we work with them. Case management is involved, and financial coaching, career, and then they're able to keep up that rent that they initially started. What is the difference in the last 5 years? There's been the community queue that Catherine was talking about. The centralized system has really helped us to do assessment. So anybody who walks into our door, we are able to see if they were assessed using the county's data system, which is called HMIS. And then we're able to see if they did an assessment. If not, we do the assessment for them and are able to put them in the queue. The queue could be for permanent supportive housing, permanent housing, or rapid rehousing. And it's all based on the assessment score that they get. Modal assistance for families with children and shared housing. This has been one of our access points. So when we have families, we're able to refer it to these programs that are available now in the county. The year-round shelter. So we used to always have just the cold shelter in North County. We didn't have any shelter. The cold shelter would go from December to April, and then all the shelters were San Jose. And now we are able to have this year-long shelter, and we are able to refer. I guess the capacity of the shelter beds are also increasing this year, so we are very excited. And the Safe Park program. West Valley has been a partner with the rotating Safe Park program, and I have worked with Saratoga and the partner agency. Our programs and services, this is easy, I'm not going to go through, but they come in for basic needs like food, shelter, housing, transportation, and benefit. We provide them that immediate services, so they get the food pantry. In our food pantry, we have a specific section for clients who don't have refrigeration or cooking, so it's more ready-to-eat meal. We give them public benefit assistance. If they have lost their assistance, they can sign up. Laundry quarters I talked about, special programs, and transportation assistance. We give them either subsidized bus passes, or if they get case management, they get bus passes free, and it's a county program called Uplift. Some of them go into program intervention, which is they get case managed, they work with housing specialists to find housing, or they're part of the rapid rehousing program, and some also go into financial coaching. Our continuum of care is short-term intervention, maintenance, and then move them into permanent housing. And we try to help them navigate the social services system, refer them to other services, and once they are ready to move into permanent housing, we do landlord engagement, help them get their credit score taken care of, or even sometimes pay for their credit report. So the intervention time for a client varies. It could be from the time they came to us, short term could be a year. Majority of our clients have been with us for more than 5 years. And a very few of them are able to move into permanent housing. This is our case management model. So we have like a 3-prong approach. We have the case manager, we sometimes get the financial coach, and we also have the housing specialist. Majority of our clients that we serve have not been in the housing market for some time. So we do a lot of coaching and help them be prepared what the housing market looks like and what they will be able to get or apply for. Gaps in service delivery in Cupertino is we don't have a laundry or a shower facility. Clients are using WVCS and the library restrooms as showers. We don't have a drop-in or what we call as a navigation center. Clients are using, again, WVCS and library for that purpose. There is no easy transit route from the library and West Valley to the Sunnyvale shelter. Lack of safe partners, shared housing option, there is a lack of that, and a lack of very strong service provider network in Cupertino, which we are working towards to form. And of course, the last, lack of affordable housing and landlords willing to take vouchers and subsidy. So that ends my slide. If you have any questions, happy to answer them. Okay.
And then next we have Rob Mizo from De Anza College.
Good evening, council members. My name is Rami, so I'm Vice President of Student Services at De Anza College. Also joining me tonight, I'd like to introduce our senior staff, including Christina Espinoza-Peeb, our interim president, as well as Lori Rank, who is VP of Instruction, Pam Gray, VP of Administrative Services, and also Mirza Spadaform, who many of you know, who's AVP of Communications and External Relations at De Anza College. Also joining us tonight is Genevieve Collar, who is our student trustee. I wanted to share with you about the challenges that housing insecurity and homelessness is posing for our students. This is something that we take very seriously because of the impact on our students. In a recent survey, 54% of our students were experiencing housing insecurity, and 16% were homeless at some point during the previous year. When you talk about housing insecurity, this includes students who are struggling paying rent or not being able to afford rent and increases in mortgage, unable to pay for rent or utilities, moving from place to place, and also not having enough financial ability to afford paying their rent, as well as students who are living beyond their normal capacities. As housing units where many students are sharing beyond the normal capacity of the housing, and also includes students who are moving 3 or more times during the year. So these are the criteria in terms of housing insecurity that was identified in the survey. In terms of available housing resources, much of what we're trying to do, as has been presented in those last presentations, is really connecting students with resources that are in the community. For example, safe overnight parking through Winterface Collaborative. We provide referral and connection for students who need that resource. Housing services through West Valley Community Services, as has been shared earlier. We're making referral and connection to students who need that service and resource to be able to take advantage of that opportunity through West Valley Community Services. Housing assistance also through a new partnership we just established with Bill Wilson Center. We have a staff person who comes on campus, meets with students, provide referrals and resources, and this is actually a new partnership that we just formed that is up and running very recently. We also are exploring house sharing opportunities and partnerships in the community, and routine roommate searches and other resources are available on a website through our Office of College Life. There's a very comprehensive website that's developed by our Office of Communications that provides food, housing, and transportation resources, videos that are featuring our students to just make sure that we get the word out and students are aware where these resources are and how they can access them. We also have staff through our outreach office who provides support for students who come in. In addition to housing insecurity, as you, I'm sure, understand, food insecurity is such a big issue, and there's interconnection between these needs, and we make sure that we are addressing those needs as well for our students. We really appreciate the care and concern the community has shown for our students, including students who are facing housing insecurity and homelessness. And in particular, our hope for the Cupertino City Council is to provide opportunities for increased housing. And we look forward to partnerships and collaborations in terms of the role that we can play to make that happen. That's presentation, and I'll be happy to take questions when we get to it. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any cards, Madam City Clerk? Okay, so yeah, before we bring it back to council, I have 3 cards from the public. Jennifer Griffin, Genevieve Kolar, and Christine Espinoza. Welcome, Jennifer.
Happy New Year, City Council. Hi, I'm Jennifer Griffin, and I went to the housing meeting where they had the presentation on homelessness, and it was wonderful. They did a fantastic job. The speakers are here tonight. Lots and lots of information. I'm really glad to see that there's a very, very proactive plan to try to help people that are having housing problems, are on the streets or in tents, etc., and try to get them where they need to be. Because let's face it, a lot of people that are homeless have different issues. Some people choose to be outside. Other people are outside due to elements that are way beyond their control. I'm very, very happy that our county is doing so much to try to deal with the issues. I had actually, at the housing meeting, I had just seen a gentleman sleeping on the sidewalk at Moore Park in Williams, and he was almost in the road. And I was able to ask county who we should have contacted if we see that. And we also, I don't know if you all realized, we have an increasing camping group that are visible from 280 as we're going down in Cupertino. I see them in several places now along the canal along 280. I just wanted to say my sister-in-law in Modesto is a high school guidance counselor, and she told me last fall that a lot of their issues in Modesto are spent a great deal of time dealing with children, high school students, who have unstable home life. She said that a lot of these students have single parents, and a lot of them are people that have moved from the Bay Area and have gone down to areas like Modesto in the Central Valley because it is more affordable. But what this is doing is it is overloading the Stanislaus County, I guess it would be the same, such as Santa Clara County. They are getting a lot of people from all parts of the Bay Area that are seeking areas that are affordable to live. And whatever problems they had in the Bay Area are winding up down in towns in the Central Valley. My sister-in-law was raised in Modesto, so she's very familiar with that area, but she said she had never seen this before until beginning last summer. And they have had a lot of their staff at the high school have had to do interventions to try to find out. The students are acting up at school, and they have to get involved with what's going on at home. So I hope that our county can reach out to other areas. Understands Salinas is being overloaded with a lot of issues with homelessness. It's not just us. We need to reach out and look to see how we can help other areas. Thank you.
Hey, thank you, Jennifer. Next is Genevieve Kolar, followed by Christine Espinoza Pell. Welcome, Genevieve.
Good evening. I didn't realize it was 3 minutes, but I'm going to yield my time to Genevieve Kohler, who serves on the Foothill De Anza Board of Trustees as our student trustee.
You can have some extra time. It's fine.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. My name is Genevieve, and like she said, I serve on the Foothill De Anza Board of Trustees as a representative of De Anza College students. I'm here to talk to y'all on behalf of the 16% of students who experienced homelessness and the 54% who experienced housing insecurity. And those who would join me have class or work or families to take care of, so I'm just here representing the students I represent. Right now, thousands of my fellow students live in conditions that make it nearly impossible to focus on school, in trailers and 2-bedroom apartments with 8 people, in in-law units where their families of 5 are in 1 room. They're staying in abusive households because they cannot afford to move out. Our professors live in Gilroy, Santa Cruz, and Hollister, or are sleeping in cars to survive. When we consider that education is the pathway to a better life, it's the way we improve our community and our world, it's sad to think of the way this lack of stability undermines those seeking to uplift their communities and families through higher education. I can't possibly cover all the stories I'd like to. The stories are as complex and unique as the causes of the housing crisis. So first of all, I'd like to invite you to come meet with students and hear our stories at our campus. We'd love to have you and show you around. But also, I'd just like to impart 2 things. And the first one is your power. Displacement happens long before the moment of eviction, before a family is uprooted or a student trying to seek higher education is destabilized. It begins with the priorities and choices of legislators and community leaders like yourselves. And I know that the people sitting before me aren't responsible for the housing crisis, but the ball is in your court now, and you can take action. The state and county legislators have shown that action is possible, and we're hoping to see the same kind of courageous and compassionate and supportive, innovative action from all of you. What this means is demanding accountability of major employers, people who, bring lots of people into the city and make it harder for those of us who are already here to live here. Encouraging employment of community college graduates, thinking about public transit and affordable housing, and investment in solutions such as housing match programs and shelters. These are just some of the ways that you can take action, as well as participating in the committee that exists to link De Anza with Fremont Union High School District, Cupertino, and a city council member. It means reconvening that committee and that you make sure that we're at the table so that you work with our population in mind. Our administrators are doing their best. As you can see, we really appreciate all the effort they're putting in, but the college is really limited in what we can do, and we can't address this crisis alone. Please recognize that the choices you make and the priorities you set and the way that you consider issues of housing and landlords and rent control are very impactful on students. But the second thing that I want you to understand, and maybe more importantly, is our power. So here, right down the street at Apple campus at the spaceship, we have about 13,000 people who come here every day to work. But then down the street at De Anza, we have about 18,000 people. And Apple would not exist if not for De Anza. Everywhere, we claim to be celebrating innovation and creativity, but all of that exists at community college, and through higher education, that's how we support that kind of creativity and innovation. At community college, well, De Anza is a stronghold against displacement in the community. It's where paramedics and nurses and dental hygienists, massage therapists are trained so they can stay here. And it's a top destination for Fremont Union grads. It's where local assembly members and state representatives are trained, our future leaders. Basically, I know that you're happy to go to the Apple spaceship, and I was too, but I hope you'll be just as happy to come to De Anza's graduation. And I hope that you all take the time and the energy and the care to learn more about our college, to learn more about students, and to support us through this crisis. We really appreciate you taking the time and having us here. And yeah, we are the next generation. And because of De Anza, many people find a community in Cupertino. And we hope that you find a community and invest in us too. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So did Christine Espinoza-Pell also want to speak, or? No, thank you. Pete, what? Oh, I'm sorry. I can't, yeah. Okay, thank you. Okay, so now we bring it back to the council for questions. So I'll start. It was mentioned about legislation, and I know in the last session, Senator Jim Bell had introduced Senate Bill 5, which would have provided significant funding for affordable housing. and the governor vetoed that. There were a bunch of other housing bills, but, to be honest, they really didn't do much, or if they do anything, it'll be quite some time before they have any effect, like the ADU bills. And then we also have a bill that will worsen our affordable housing crisis moving through the legislature. We thought it was blocked until last week, but now it seems to be moving forward again. So I just wonder, the three agencies here, are you lobbying the state legislatures for actual housing solutions like Jim Bell? I know Jim Bell's bringing back his bill in this session under a different number, but again, the state, the money for the affordable housing really has to come from the state and county governments, and how are the agencies lobbying for that money? Anybody want to answer?
Sure, thank you, Mayor. Consuelo Hernandez, County of Santa Clara. We do have our policy team that does provide feedback directly to the legislature, primarily around how they are wording the particular bill or how they're prioritizing funding locally. And we partner with Destination Home, which is a public-private entity in our county, coordinating the plan to end homelessness. We also partner with local cities and share those letters in case there's an interest in using some of the information we've collected to provide feedback. But our role is really on if they are providing some type of funding locally, that we can inform how that money is distributed across our county.
Don't leave. So the other question, so in Cupertino, I know we did the veranda last year, and it's great, but it's only 19 units. Our arena entitlements were over 1,400 units, and many of those projects included, well, all of them include a component of below market rate. And unfortunately, when we talk to the developers, they are not building the market rate, which means we don't get the below market rate. And, if the county and the other agencies could help lobby the state and lobby these developers, saying, finding ways that they can be encouraged to build this housing, because without the market rate, we're not going to get the BMR. And I talk to the developers all the time, and I hear the same story from everyone. It's like, we know we have a shortage of affordable housing, but the luxury market rate housing, there's already kind of too much of it, and so they don't want to start these projects. And we're kind of in a bind because we bet on those projects as a way to get those BMR units that are part of them, and now we're not getting them. And in fact, some BMR units that have an expiration of a certain number of years, some of them will start to go away, and they will convert to market rate units, and we'll be worse off than we are now. So we really need the county and De Anza and West Valley to be lobbying these legislatures to create laws that actually can help this housing get built. That's all I have. Anybody else want to? Rod?
So I thought I heard you say that do you think we have too much market rate housing?
Correct. I've talked to 3 different developers now that say they will not build because they feel that there's a surplus of the luxury market rate housing.
What about just market rate housing?
They won't build anything except luxury because that's the only way they can get their money back, considering the high construction costs, the material costs due to the tariffs. They had
luxury
they had
just means
7
it's
reasons.
sell for market rate, right?
Well, for rental. They're talking about rentals that will rent for $4,000 and up per month. They have no interest in building housing that will rent for $2,000.
And your contention is we have too much of that?
It's not my contention, it's their contention.
Their contention that we have too much market rate housing, okay. Would be news to me, but okay. So I appreciate this very much. The governor, in introducing his budget, talked about $1.4 billion that he wanted to pledge toward homelessness. And I'm wondering if any of you experts that tracked his statement more carefully than I could help talk to what that money's to be used for, how it'll be administrated. You know, this is the kind of problem that, like housing and transportation, really crosses city borders. And you know, if some part of the county's hurting, we're all hurting, right? So we have to all use our collective energy to do a better job. And yeah, I'm interested in knowing how the homelessness. I'm not asking what's coming to Cupertino out of it. Don't get me wrong. I'm trying to discern how that money might be used in our county and how it would be administered, if you know yet.
So I can speak to some, I don't know about the entire amount, but some of the state funding is coming in the form of, it's HHAP is the acronym, Housing and Homeless Assistance Program, I believe. And our county is receiving about 22 million in that allocation. Part of that to our continuum of care, part of it to the county directly. We're still working out where that funding will go. We did have a previous state allocation. It was at that time called HEAP, but they've basically just changed the name. With that allocation, we supported shelter operations, homelessness prevention, shelter capital improvements, and we planned, that was one-time funding, so we plan to continue to those programs initially, but we'll have a little bit additional. But it will be aligned with our efforts under the community plan, so to expand our programs, our services, as well as the city also, the city of San Jose also has an allocation. They also are working with us to make sure we're all aligned around those efforts.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Well, I appreciate you from the county being here, and I'd also like to say I appreciate what you've done to partner with nonprofits. I think of a project that I was at when they announced funding from the county for Hope's Corner in Mountain View, which provides warm meals. And that money went to, along with Google's money, went to form to help improve the kitchen to bring it up to commercial standards so meals could be prepared on site. Joe Siminian was involved in that. I appreciate the work that's been done with Project We Hope that was described earlier. You know, their Dignity on Wheels shower program is now, through private donations and other things, they now have a very robust shower program around the county. And they started in East Palo Alto and still have a shower there, but that shower program has been well recognized and came up in the Mercury News' wish list in December. My daughter has volunteered at both of these, and as has my family, and she's now serving once a week with a program called Showers to the People, a similar program with San Jose Catholic workers. And I know the county, I believe the county's been engaged with that too. So they're, it is really sad that we don't have the cumulative housing we need to put everybody here, and displacement is high. And my belief is a lot of that displacement comes from folks that are coming into well-paid jobs at companies like Apple. The consequence is housing prices, market rate housing prices go up. And as a result, we have, since 2013, our housing prices have doubled. And, it doesn't take much for somebody to fall on bad times. An illness, a divorce, you age, and suddenly, through a combination of circumstances, you find yourself out on the street because you can no longer afford to live here. And some people pick up and move elsewhere. It's the kind of people that are teaching at our college or at our schools. It's the kind of people who aspire to an education. But we have a real crisis, and I'm supportive of and appreciative of all of you who have come here tonight, including our staff, to help educate us on this. We simply have to do a better job, and I would contend we have to do a better job building housing at all income levels. Some of the projects that come forward, we focus on low and very low, and the truth is, right, we need moderate income housing for the likes of teachers, because that's where their income level is. And we need more market rate housing because, yeah, we do have a lot of folks coming in to take the high-tech jobs that we've all entitled, especially the cities in this county. So we're just going to have to go figure out how to build a lot more. I'm confident the state, through carrots and yes, sticks, is going to drive more housing production one way or the other. So we can either take the lead, or we can try to apply the parking brake and wait till we get rammed into. But it's we're just going to have to do better in all these categories. Thank you.
Okay, Councilmember Chow.
So I have many questions, but we don't have a lot of time. I guess today what we are hoping is to get direction from the council on the recommendation from the Housing Commission. Is that the purpose today?
Yes, the purpose of the presentation this evening is for council to receive the report, and staff is open to any feedback you may have and any further direction.
Hopefully we have something on certain immediate things we can do for. And so I have a question about, according to the 2019 survey, we have 159 homeless individuals. And how are these surveys done? And do we have more information on specifically how these individuals become homeless? And is there, because if we figure out root causes for them, maybe we can provide some immediate help in the next year so that number doesn't increase.
So the 159 is from the point in time count, otherwise known as the Homeless Census and Survey. The way that count is done is we do a visual count that one evening in the night of January, and we survey a subset of that, of our homeless population. In the last one we surveyed the homeless population was about 9,700. We surveyed about 1,000 individuals. We don't have a high enough sample in each jurisdiction to be able to speak to those numbers by jurisdiction, but we do have a countywide point-in-time count that report that speaks to some of the reasons for homelessness. So loss of job, the characteristics that people are experiencing in our community, and I can provide that to y'all. I think it may be in the staff report as well, but we can
county homeless report.
The county, right? So we don't have that level of detail for the 159 that were counted because they were not all surveyed.
So how did you derive the 159 number?
They were visually counted.
So they were counted, were seen.
They were seen, yeah. So we do the count in a very early morning. Over the course of 2 nights, we send out volunteer teams paired with homeless guides that cover every area of the county, and they actually enumerate them, whether they're in a tent, in a car, in an RV, sleeping on the street. So those 159 people were actually seen in Cupertino on the night of the count. But that's
January 2019.
January 2019.
A year ago.
Correct. And we do that count every 2 years. So we will not do it in 2020. We will do it again in 2021.
So we don't really know how many of them need, for example, mental health assistance, or how many have been admitted but then they repeatedly, or so we don't have any idea.
So the
or
data
how many just need jobs. We just need to provide jobs for them.
We have that. We have some of those estimates based on the survey that was done countywide, and I think we could, unless there's, I don't think we think that population varies too much across across different jurisdictions. So we have that estimate. It's based on self-report, so this is not linked to mental health services data, but we report back on how many people self-reported a psychological or emotional condition. We also ask it in our homeless management information system that Sujatha mentioned. I did look at last year, of all the people that were assessed, 24% self-reported mental health issues, and that again is a self-report. So it's what we have in terms of the data, but it's not perfect.
Okay, and that doesn't include the UNZA students, right? So this 159 is most likely not attending college.
It just includes the people that were visually seen that night. So they could have been students, but it wouldn't count people who were couch surfing or staying with a friend. If they were in a car and we were able to see someone staying in a car, they're counted, yes.
Oh, okay. Okay. So I guess the first recommendation is the home match program. And so this is a Berkeley program, but it's the pilot program applies only for graduate student and postdoc student. And so what do you need from us if we want to proceed with home match? I think it's supported by a nonprofit, so a nonprofit needs to administer it, right? So the city did invest in some money upfront, right?
Yeah, so I'll let staff talk a little bit more about details, but what we're trying to achieve tonight, by the way, Ben, Food Director of Community Development, what we're trying to achieve tonight is gather as much input and suggestions you may have so we can continue our discussion with our partners in the community as well as law enforcement. So as much as you can offer back, we'll take that and go back and figure out what the next steps may be. If you wish for us to explore some of these items that the Housing Commission has suggested, we'll go ahead and do that and figure out what the next steps are. But staff may have some additional details that may help us as well. But that's the intent that we're looking for tonight.
So you want direction on let's explore home match program?
Sure, if there's a consensus from the council, say, yeah, let's do all these items or item 1 or 3 or whatever it is, we'll go ahead and do that. But even if you don't give us that direction, we're going to explore a wide range of options as well, including the Housing Commission suggestion that's listed in our staff report.
Mm-hmm. So do everyone know what home match program is? Because I looked into it, so I know, but there is not a lot of explanation here. So I'm wondering,
Right, it's been explained before in a previous meeting, so I think we all know how it works.
Okay, and then I guess number 2 of the recommendation is the lack of hygiene service, which, as Rod said, that there is a nonprofit that's providing this service. And so for the city, what does it need from us? Maybe funding or location for parking? What exactly does it needs from us, the nonprofit? Or
we understand that there is not a mobile shower that comes into Cupertino. So throughout this process and working with our partners, we've identified that there would be a need for that. And so staff can work with Dignity on Wheels and our partners to come up with funding and budget and locations and come back with next steps.
So is Dignity on Wheels funded by the city of Palo Alto? I heard it's in Palo Alto. Or it's funded only by the nonprofit? Or what kind of assistance they get from the city?
We can come back with that information.
Okay. And coordinated with VIA Shuttle program. As I understand, they already get free bus pass or reduced bus pass, and VIA does provide free. VIA Shuttle is free for low-income people, right? But then it doesn't go to Sunnyvale shelter right now. So is the request to add a destination that's outside of Cupertino?
Oh, can I interrupt 1 second? I was looking at the new bus lines that started at the end of December, and it looks like the 523 Is this the shelter on Ross Avenue in Sunnyvale? Does anyone know where that shelter is? I looked it up and it said it was on Ross Avenue. What?
It's 999 Hamlin Court.
Oh, okay. If I'm looking at the right one, it does look like, let's see. Oh, yeah.
So
right.
what bus lines go
right.
to
So the
that?
523, which just started, comes from Cupertino, and it goes up and it stops on Matilda and Ross, which is very close to the shelter on Hamlin Court. So even though we lost one bus line to Cupertino, the 523 looks very useful from getting, from Cupertino to the shelter. So hopefully people are aware of that new bus service.
Thank you. We'll look into that. And the request from Housing Commission was to see if the shuttle would go outside of Cupertino to service providers such as the Sunnyvale shelter, but we can bring back the information about the bus lines as well.
Yeah, that would be great. Because via shuttle is not free. It's pretty costly for the city. So if there is existing bus line that's sufficient, then that's good.
And you said they get bus passes, right?
They
The
get
homeless can get free bus
already.
passes? Or subsidized? Or?
No, it's very limited. So it's not
Okay.
like all the 149 who are accessing our services, everybody will not get a bus pass because they have to pay for it. Some of them have no income to pay for it. And the one that's free, they have to be case managed or they have to
Right.
be part of a program, and not all of them are part of the program. So it's very limited.
so-
We only get 15 bus passes, which is for case managed clients.
Right. So if the city wanted to fund some more bus passes,
So we can.
to be honest, a bus pass I think is a lot more useful than the Via Shuttle because it goes a lot more places, and and it doesn't. The cost to the city, we could buy a lot more bus passes than we could provide via shuttles because their shuttles much more costly.
Yeah, it's connectivity. It has to service providers like us. Then there's Sunnyvale and the Sunnyvale shelter, the library. So it's like access points for them. Yes, that's something we can explore with the city staff.
Okay.
Okay, good. And then the fourth one is increase the amount of general funds specifically towards homelessness. So what exactly we are thinking we can use the general fund for?
Sure. So in 2017, City Council approved an increase of the general fund human services grant from $50,000, I believe, to $100,000, acknowledging the rise in homelessness services. And West Valley came in with their new program, or a new program to us with our funding, Haven to Home. And so this past year, we used 83,000 of those 100,000 in funds. And I think Housing Commission was wanting to put more funding towards homelessness, for examples like you have of bus passes and such. So our current funding cycle is open, and providers such as West Valley could include bus passes and homeless services in their application for the General Fund Human Services Grant, and we could provide services that route if we choose. So they didn't give any specifics on numbers, they just wanted to see.
This is separate from the community grant fund, right? That's only 20,000?
We have the three funding sources: the below market rate affordable housing fund, the general fund human services grant, and then community development block grant. And I know the increase in the general fund human services grant was specifically due to the homelessness issue. So we do have funds available for these types of programs if we receive applications.
So West Valley Community Services can write grant proposal to tell us which programs have the most need. They have many, many programs.
Yes, so this past cycle, we were able to fund all $83,600 of requests. So we had a buffer, but we could take up to $100,000 with our current general fund allocation towards the human services grant. So we would encourage applicants to increase their services if needed, especially towards the homelessness services.
So how much do we expect West Valley Community Service might wish to request in addition to 100,000? Do we have some estimation? How much of the cost is not yet covered? So, okay, sorry. Yeah.
I will not be able to answer that right now, but we are writing a proposal. It's due soon, so we'll have to look at all the gaps and all the services that we would want to cover, and then we can put a budget together.
Okay, yeah. So.
Okay, Darcy.
I'll keep my remarks brief, and I want to thank everyone for being here. It's a very important problem to address. We used to have a rotating shelter in Cupertino that went among some of our houses of faith, the churches, and I learned after the fact that the coordination of that rotating shelter was actually performed by a private citizen. And I know that our nonprofit organization, Rotary, gets involved in a lot of things, and my understanding is that there was some kind of coordination there. But I learned after the fact, in fact, that system is no longer in place in Cupertino. And it seems to me that there are a lot of needs that can be addressed directly in the community. These are institutions that are in Cupertino. And I think that Cupertino as a city needs to get involved with reviving this mechanism. And so I know that when it was operative, we weren't intermixed in there. And so what I would support is being able to, not just working with potentially Rotary and the Houses of Faith in reviving the system, but also with De Anza College. I think if we were to revive it, we should really think about putting our own, a facility into the mix of rotation. So that would be my first ask. It's tremendously important, and I think if we looked into it, it's probably been at least a year and a half where it hasn't been available, and I think it is meeting a very important, need in terms of making sure that these facilities are available. And also, I won't get into the costs of it, but I think as soon as we bring in the nonprofit and the private sector, especially the churches and the volunteer organizations, you do tend to get a lot of value. You have people doing this as basically an act of commitment and passion in and of themselves. And I'm not saying that it's not important to put dollar numbers on particular very important programs as well. But I think we really need to be focusing on these types of programs too. All right. Second, I'm not sure, and I apologize, I had to step out during the presentations. I'm not sure if the $50 million that Apple earmarked towards homelessness was mentioned during the presentations. I apologize if it was. However, they earmarked it for a particular organization, Destination Home, I believe it was. They're a San Jose nonprofit organization. And one of the things that they have is a homelessness prevention program. And so my understanding of that is that that's essentially trying to make sure that homelessness doesn't happen from the outset. And so I know that our West Valley Community Services also has something like, emergency financial assistance available. I've talked about this in the past. I was hoping that we could actually take some of our BMR funding and put it over to emergency financial assistance. I don't know what the mechanism would be for that, but I do know that we had approximately $7 million sitting in that fund for more than 5 years when we didn't have projects moving forward. And so, these types of things, I think we need to make the connections between the funding opportunities. I'm not saying that this came out of Cupertino exclusively, but Apple is a Cupertino company, and to think that there is this very significant pot of funding and a nonprofit mechanism in Cupertino that could be using it to help people make sure that they don't become homeless in the first place, I think that connection needs to be made. So my ask of staff would be to reach out to Destination Home, even interface with some counterparts or responsible people at Apple to see if we can get that money connected. And I'm sorry for picking on WVCS in particular. If there are other nonprofits that kind of go and converge with those types of monetary usages, would absolutely support those types of allocations. And so whatever you need for us to do from the City Council, please let us know in terms of that type of encouragement. with regard to another part of it, I think that in terms of building shelters, it sounds like, based on the statistics we've been hearing, there is a very significant percentage of the student population at De Anza College that at some point gets very adversely affected by this problem. I don't know if it's a majority of that 14% at any given point in time. I think it would be good to know how many are we looking at any given point in time, so that we could plan out potential facilities. I'm not necessarily saying that we should use Community Hall or Quinlan Center or facilities at De Anza as part of a rotating shelter system. But if we're thinking about this on a longer term basis, I think we can design out some of our facilities to perhaps add 3 or 4 showers, for instance. The only facilities I know that really have extensive showers in Cupertino are the sports center facilities. And so if we're thinking about that, and planning out our capital costs for buildings in the future, we might think about, for instance, adding a really nice amenity to our city, like a new fitness center. How can we potentially design it so that it could be used in the evenings, for instance, on these particularly cold nights? It would, make no difference to people at 2 a.m. who are members of the sports center or the fitness center, for instance, but it would make a very big difference to people who are outside in 18-degree weather. So those are my comments. I'm sorry they're a little bit more extensive than I planned.
Okay, so what do you need from us tonight?
We have a list of your suggestions, and we will compile all of that and get to work.
Right. So, the number 3, the via shuttle, I'm a little hesitant to have that, since it's only funded for 18 months. I would not want people to get too dependent on that shuttle, even if we were able to expand it to go to new destinations. I'd much rather spend extra money providing bus passes if that was a request by West Valley or other agencies in terms of transportation. But the other 3, I think the hygiene, the home match, and general funds towards homelessness are all things that I would support. Okay.
Mayor, if I may, I can
Sure.
add too that our current Housing and Human Services grant funding cycle closes February 7th. And at that time, we'll understand if we have a shortage of funds to put towards services. So
Right.
we'll continue to encourage our agencies to apply for what they need. And we can come back at that time and look if we need to increase the allocations towards.
So the Vice Mayor
services.
mentioned some of the funds that we have that have not been applied for. You think it was $7 million?
Yes, absolutely.
Right.
The
So-
BMR Housing Fund sat at $7
Right.
million for at least 5 years.
So I think one question is, a choice. Do we spend money on more BMR housing, or do we spend it on homelessness and homeless shelters? And I don't know the answer as to which is the best use of the limited funds. So that would be a good thing to get feedback on.
Yeah, and so how about the home match program?
Right, yeah, we already.
adopted all the,
yeah.
you adopted all the
Okay.
recommendations from the commission.
So, plus the rotating shelter and destination home and, okay.
And then what happened with Mark Berman's bill in terms of safe parking? Does anyone?
Why is that inactive?
He's not.
What?
Yeah, why is that inactive? Do you know?
So it was held up in the Appropriations Committee, and so actually community college students are really well networked. We have a statewide advocacy body that we decided to fund ourselves, students, and we work with state legislators, and Mark Berman's bill came from students proposing it and writing it, De Anza students actually. And so we met with him. He said he's not going to revisit it. Basically, they put on a bunch of amendments that couldn't be taken off that were unsavory. Well, they just said basically if it was within a certain proximity to an elementary school, for example, then there's no overnight parking. And so it also was an unfunded mandate, and so there were some problems from the community colleges.
All right. Oh, thank you for that.
Now that you
update.
are here, are there showering facilities on the Anza College campus for students?
So there actually was another law passed a few years ago about community college campuses in particular, and that they have to have their locker room facilities open until a certain time, and that I'm not sure if it's anyone, but it's all students. All right.
all community colleges are available with the shower.
So that's passed.
Yeah.
Yes, that's passed, and it's open until I think within like 30 minutes of the last class, so to like 10 p.m. or so.
Okay.
We also partner with the Winterfest Collaborative in terms of referring students who may be sleeping in their cars but need a safe place to park overnight. So we do partner with them, make those referrals, make sure that students have that access as well.
Okay.
Could
So
you email the council so that we have your contact information for? Okay.
So I'll adjourn the study session, and we're a little late, but we'll take 5 minutes and continue the city council meeting at, let's say, 6:55. If Councilmember Chow and Vice Mayor Paul can return, we can get started. Okay, let's start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Please rise. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, we have our brand new city clerk, Kirsten Scorsha, who has just started. So congratulations and welcome. Can you conduct the roll call, please?
Certainly, Mr. Mayor. Councilmember Chow?
Here.
Councilmember Sinks?
Here.
Councilmember Willie?
I'm going to drop out for tonight. I'm not feeling well.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Okay. And
Take care.
And Councilmember Paul is not here. I don't know where he went, but we
and
can.
Mayor Scharf.
Yeah, here. So first, let me report out from our closed session. We had a workers' compensation claim, Government Code Section 5495695, claimant Deborah Martinez against the City of Cupertino. The council provided direction to outside counsel as to a workers' compensation matter entitled Deborah Martinez versus City of Cupertino. WCAB case AD J9575169. Second item, conference with legal counsel, anticipated litigation, initiation of litigation pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9D4. One potential case, joining an amicus brief. So we discussed with legal counsel an invitation to sign on to the cities and counties amicus brief prepared by the City of Los Angeles in litigation to protect immigrant children in detention, currently pending in the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals. The council gave its approval to the city attorney to enter into the litigation, Jenny Flores versus William Barr, number 1956326, by signing on to the cities and counties amicus brief. The brief will urge the court to enforce the Flores settlement, which provides protections for immigrant minors, and strike down new federal government regulations pertaining to the detention of minors that do not include these protections. This action was taken by the following vote: ayes, Mayor Scharf, Vice Mayor Paul, Councilmember Sinks, no noes, one abstention, Councilmember Chow, and absent, Councilmember Willie. So that concludes the closed session report.
So I'd like to comment on my abstention on the second item. This was put on the agenda, but I did not have documents to study. So I feel that I heard only one side of the argument, but not the other side. We should support children and then provide health and housing for them. But then I really think before I sign on amicus brief. I would like to understand more the background about this lawsuit. Thank you.
Okay, we're on to ceremonial matters and presentations. The first one is a presentation from Cupertino Elementary School, Robo Champs, regarding the response to the Lego Robotics theme of identifying a potential problem in public space and proposing a solution. So welcome. We are ready for the presentation. Great, come on up. Do you have a PowerPoint yeah, there's a microphone over there, right? Or you can use this one. Okay. Welcome, go.
Hello everyone, my name is Shreyan and our team name is RoboChamps. My name is Aditya. My name is Ahan. My name is Arnav. My name is Sanshrey. Today we're going to be talking about the processes and ways how we're going to save the Lehigh Permanente Quarry. FLL, also known as First Lego League, is a competition organized by First for elementary and middle schools. We have 3 parts in our competition: project, robo game, and core values. 2019's game Shitty Shaper focuses on identifying problems in public spaces.
The problem is the Lehigh Permanente Quarry is releasing selenium, a major part of toxic waste, into the Stevens Creek, which is affecting many birds, fishes, and other organisms. A quarry is a type of open pit mine where stones and other materials have been extracted.
Our solution is going to be made with the products, the sebin and the bed valve from reactor. The sebin is going to remove all solid waste from the water and send it through a PE 4710 pipe to the bed valve from reactor. The bed valve from reactor will absorb the selenium and release the purified water back into the creek. Once the bed valve from reactor has absorbed enough selenium, we will manually transport the biofilms to solar panel manufacturers to use in their solar panels.
The sebin, created by 2 Australian surfers, is a bucket with a pump that filters out any solid material from water or another liquid. The sebin is used at the marina dock and has a mode where it can filter oil from oil water, leaving clear water. We will use the sebin by connecting it to the bed valve film reactor with PE 4710 pipes.
The bed valve from reactor was created by Odigrad Halvard in the late 1980s. This was commercialized by a rich company. There are over 700 wastewater treatments installed in over 50 countries. This bed valve from reactor has a layer of biofilm which will absorb the selenium from the wastewater. The selenium will be then transported to a solar panel manufacturing company.
As you can see on your screen, this is a visual representation of our solution. To clean the quarry, it will take about $5,500 to $6,000 per biobin. It will take about 9 to 12 years to clean out all the selenium currently in the quarry, and we will be filtering 15 gallons 24/7, 15 gallons per hour.
We spoke to a pipe manufacturer, Mr. Lance, and he told us that PE 4710 pipes are the best pipes because they can bend around obstacles that can't be removed. They don't absorb selenium. They are waterproof, and their cost is less than other metal or plastic pipes.
As you can see, selenium can be reused and recycled to help our society. Implementing the solution will help in 2 ways. It will save living organisms and it will provide us electricity. Selenium can be also harvested and be sold for money. We hope we can preserve the quarry.
Thank you.
Wow.
Any questions, comments, feedback, or suggestions?
Well, I just want to say when I first got the request about this, I thought, wow, these high school students have really come up with something great. And then I said, oh my goodness, these are elementary school students. And I thought back about when I was in elementary school, and I think we were playing with Lego and not quite up to this level yet. So I think this is just wonderful, and definitely we can be, encouraging the quarry to look into something like this for filtering out the selenium. Is it anyone else wish to comment?
So my understanding is there was a consent agreement, a legal agreement that was reached between the Sierra Club and the quarry quite a few years ago now, maybe 2012 or 2013, that basically compels the quarry to clean up. And at that time, they chose a reverse osmosis filter. Do you know if that filter is in operation and working? Is this an alternate solution, or would this be used in conjunction with?
So this solution is actually, yes, they're using the filter.
Yeah.
But this solution is better to use for it.
Because?
It's working more efficient and is cleaning it out in more time than the filter.
Okay. And I mean, I think the general problem, right, is there's a lot of selenium native to the soil as there is mercury. So as that stuff is mined, selenium will continue to trickle out of the pit and into the water. So my understanding is it'll be an ongoing problem until such time as there's no more mining there. So I think your filter may have it may be going for, well, as long as the mine is in operation and probably sometime thereafter. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Very interesting.
Thank you.
Great. Anyone else?
Can you let us know what grade you guys are in?
Fifth.
Okay, 5th grade and 4th grade?
Yeah.
Well, I feel pretty good about our future, is what I would comment. But very well done. You guys have an incredibly good idea.
You must do Legos too, though, because FLL stands for First Lego League, no?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, do you know
Stephen.
where this has been used to filter selenium?
This is our original idea. We don't think anybody has used it yet.
So no one has used it yet?
Yes, they've only used normal filters just to filter out the selenium, but we came up with a more advanced one by using more products and making a more advanced search, so we were able to come up with an original idea for filtering it out.
So are you going to patent it?
Who knows?
So how did you find out about this solution?
We searched up many products that can filter, absorb, and we were able to find these two products, which are very efficient for us, so which made it better for us, and we combined it together and we made a good product. Or so-to-be product.
Looking forward to a startup.
Yeah.
Located in Cupertino, though.
Yeah.
I actually did have a question. So during your presentation, you stated that the selenium had to be manually removed. What does that mean? Is that a matter of removing the filter and basically scraping the selenium off? Or?
We won't be scraping the selenium. It will be absorbed by something called biofilms, which we can hand take out and bring it to solar panel manufacturers.
I see. So you're basically saying that the biofilms containing selenium and presumably other things will be just delivered wholesale to solar panel manufacturers. Okay, great. Thanks very much.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Wow. Okay, our next presentation is from CalTutors on inspiring young students through free STEM training. Welcome.
Thank you. Let me just set this up.
Yeah, be sure to talk in the microphone too.
Okay.
You might need to adjust it because you're tall. Okay.
Hi everyone, my name is Raj. I'm a senior at Monte Vista High School, and today I'll be talking about CalTutors. A few years ago, I was studying for some national STEM competitions, and I was attending these costly summer boot camps where I had expert professors teach me concepts and strategies to help me prepare for these competitions. And I found this really useful, but one thing I realized was that people who attended these types of camps had a significant advantage over others. And I asked myself, what about all the other types of people who can't afford these types of expensive training camps? I wanted to find some way to maybe build more equality into education, and that's what inspired me to help found CalTutors. So a little bit about us. CalTutors is a student-led organization that serves to educate students of all ages, primarily middle and high school, free of charge. So we prepare students for various STEM Olympiads, including the AMC and USICO, which I'll be talking more about. And we create tailored curriculum that's designed specifically for these competitions. We host weekly training sessions in local libraries where we teach students concepts and also provide practice problems. We also offer free one-on-one tutoring for students who would like additional help or clarification with any concepts. And finally, we have an online database that stores hundreds of practice problems for students who would like additional practice at home. So one thing we really try to emphasize at CalTutors is building students' problem-solving skills. We find that sometimes at school, students tend to overly rely on memorization, and rather than thoroughly understanding the concepts, they're kind of just memorizing the formula and they're just putting it to test. So these competitions, the value in these competitions is that they really challenge students to think outside the box and find creative ways to apply their learning to solve problems. So by preparing students for these competitions like the American Mathematics competitions and the USA Computing Olympiad, we're helping students build their problem-solving skills, and in the process we find that the potential to win awards and perform well in these competitions is a great driving factor for students. So a little bit more about us. We've been around for the last 4 years, and we've trained over 200 students in over 3 libraries. And one thing that students really appreciate about us is that we have a low student-to-teacher ratio of approximately 3 to 1. So this really allows sessions to be more interactive, and students can have more individual help and opportunity to ask questions. So here's what some students and the librarian have had to say about CalTutors. One of our students, Rachel, says that CalTutors has helped her understand the problems better and showed her quicker ways to solve them. Another student, Sanvi, says that CalTutors makes problems easier to solve by breaking them down into smaller steps that we can easily follow. And finally, local librarian at West Valley Branch Library, Randall Studstill, says that one of the things that has impressed me most about CalTutors has been their mission to provide free tutoring to underserved kids and teens. They recognize that a lot of students struggle but can't afford private tutoring. CalTutors provides the help those students need. So again, CalTutors, we're a student-led organization. We want to help students and we'll provide the resources they need to excel in these competitions. Thank you for listening, and please visit caltutors.org for more details or email contact.caltutors@gmail.com to register for upcoming classes. Thank you.
So if students are interested, they should just go to your website,
Yeah.
right?
Or they can email contact.caltutors.
Great.
So what area of students do you serve?
They can be from anywhere. Primarily, we find that a lot of students are from Cupertino and San Jose.
But then you do it in libraries,
Mhm.
right? So they need to get to the libraries.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, anybody else? All right, great, thank you.
Thank you.
Madam City Clerk, are there any postponements?
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Okay.
We have a couple of postponements. So
Okay.
municipal code amendments to Cupertino Municipal Code Chapter 5.50 regarding adopting new policies to regulate the sale of tobacco, which was previously noticed for this evening, was continued to February 4th, and the item will be renoticed. Also, the city manager has continued item number 12 for the De Anza Hotel to a date certain on Tuesday, March 3rd, to allow adequate review in response to a comment letter received on January 20, 2020 from Lazo and Drury LLP on behalf of the Laborers International Union of North America, Local Union 270. The postponement will allow the city's environmental consultant and city staff to prepare an analysis and a response. The applicant is in agreement with this delay.
Great. Okay, we are on to oral communications. Do we have any cards? Oh, yes.
About the agreement with the delay?
Oh, hold on. John, do you want to fill out a card to speak? Or I can just call you. But fill out a card afterwards, okay? Yeah, welcome. This is the property owner of the De Anza Hotel property.
Yes, we have had conversation with the staff that the wisest thing to postpone it, but our concern is a lot of the public may be here, and we are ready for a presentation. You cannot vote on it without getting all the information, but I think it'd be unfair to if there's people from the public if we didn't put the presentation on. It's up to you, though. You're the council. And I'll fill out a card.
Yeah, Madam City Attorney, what?
Well, I think it's cleanest. We will have members of the public can speak during oral communications if they want, since this item has been continued. And we will have a full hearing on this item with all the information and at one time, at the time when the meeting is continued to. So I believe that having everyone with all the information at the same time and covered in one hearing is the best way to proceed. And staff will be ready to provide their presentation at that time, and the applicant can certainly give their presentation as well. Members of the public can speak during oral communication if they like.
Okay. So I've got several cards. First, Paige Fermi, followed by Jennifer Griffin, followed by Anjali Kauser. Welcome, Paige.
Good evening. My name is Paige Fenny, and I am here on behalf of the Laborers International Union of North America Local Union Number 270, also known as LIUNA, concerning the initial study and mitigated negative declaration for the proposed De Anza Hotel project. Since this item is going to be continued, we will wait to hear the analysis from the city and the applicant on March 12th. That's okay.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next I have Jennifer Griffin, followed by Anjali Kauser, followed by Charlene Lee. Welcome, Jennifer.
Good evening, City Council. Hi, I'm Jennifer Griffin, and I know you all had a brief mention of SB 50 earlier. The bill was, Scott Wiener reintroduced it as we believed would happen in Oakland about a week ago. But the bill 4 days ago, they bypassed Senator Portantino in the Appropriations Committee, and now it goes to the Rules Committee. I don't know why they did that. There was no explanation, and I'm not really sure what the plan is there. As far as I'm concerned, what is the driving force behind backing this bill? San Francisco is going to hell in a handbasket. Oakland is having problems, as is Berkeley. So why are we spending so much time and public drama on having this bill reintroduced for the third time? It was 827 a year ago. That got shot down by, I think it was Jerry Brown. I may have gotten my governors mixed up. And then it was brought back again as a gut and amend by Scott Wiener. And then Senator Portantino last April put it to a 2-year bill. So it was quiet. Now it's come again, and it's gone a strange route. And then we have been told that if it does not pass out by January 31st, Scott Wiener will do a gut and amend and bring it back. As far as I'm concerned, Jim Bell has learned that he can do a gut and amend for his mental health bill. He may have learned from Scott Wiener. I didn't know you could do gut and amend on bills, but we're sure learning a lot about how you can get a bill that is having problems reintroduced again. As far as I'm concerned, who is paying the money to have this bill reintroduced? I don't know who pays senators' salaries, but why is there so much money and time being spent on a bill like this when we have the problems with the Surfrider Foundation and Koselo at Martins Beach, which no one is attending to? That has gone on for years. That is limiting access of California residents to their beach. And my mother used to go there during World War II to Martins Beach. They had sardines or something they fished for. So yes, why are we spending so much time on SB 50 when we can't even get access to our beach in Martins Beach? Isn't that something Scott Wiener should be working on? Also, SB 50 will destroy all Eichler homes in the state as well as Victorians. And also right now in Washington state, there's a group of senators that are proposing something similar to SB 50. And in Oregon, you know what happened. We've got HB 2001. Has CASA gone to Oregon and Washington? Thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer. Anjali Kauser, followed by Charlene Lee, followed by Lisa Warren. Welcome, Anjali.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor, City Council members, City Manager. I'm Anjali Kauser. I'm with the Cupertino Chamber of Commerce. I wanted to come here and wish everybody a very happy 2020. It brings us to be celebrating the 65 years of City of Cupertino. The Chamber was formed 66 years ago, just in order to incorporate the city. So we wanted to show you that we have come up with the current business directory, which was just published this month, is going to be available for everybody celebrating the 65th year of the city. And then also wanted to share with you, the mission of the Chamber is to basically be here for the community, for the businesses, and for the residents. And keeping up with that spirit, we have a few events coming up. We're going to have our first restaurant week starting next week. And it's going to be, we have 6 restaurants in Cupertino who are participating. It has never happened in the South Bay, so we're very excited to bring this. And hopefully you all, watching at home and here, will go to at least one of the restaurants during the week and try out their food. Please visit our website for the menu and other specialties for the week. Then, as we have our youth doing so well, we also have a summer camp fair on February 1st, right here in this room, where families can sign up their children for summer camps, summer school starts. And to celebrate our diversity, Lunar New Year starts later this week, so we would like to wish everybody a happy Lunar New Year. It's the year of the rat, which starts the lunar calendar. It is the first animal in the 12-year calendar that is celebrated. So hopefully you all will be attending the Lunar New Year luncheon on February 7th at the Quinlan Center Cupertino room. So with that, I would like to extend the invitation to everybody here and at home. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Anjali. Next we have Charlene Lee, followed by Lisa Warren, followed by Kitty Moore. Welcome, Charlene.
Hi, my name is Charlene Lee. I live here for 20 years. My husband is VP of Samsung. We both have Yale degree. My husband have Yale PhD computer science. I have public and private management. In 1 year, I was be arrested for 4 times. The police falsified 5 police report. I just stood at the front curbside of Monta Vista High, but police lie I trespassed Monta Vista High. I already addressed for half a year. I don't know why you reject to answer my question and why you cannot invite Captain Richard Urina or Sheriff to come to here, because they cut my gala into my side yard using 5 gun point at me, and now they cannot provide for CD, and the photo shows that I didn't trespass Monta Vista High, and so I already sent to Deborah Fang, and all reject to answer and respond for half year. So I want you to respond, because you want to be mayor again, so you need to respond immediately, because I cannot keep coming here. You need to ask Captain Rich Urina was very come to here to say why keep arrest me. I pay a lot of tax. And in Mia Peters, I was assaulted at Taiwan Culture Center because I asked a question. And the police there falsified 3 police reports. And then here falsified 5 police reports and put me in jail 1 year. So I want to know what's the reason to put me in jail 1 year. And if I didn't trespass Manta Vista High, what's the reason to lie I trespass Manta Vista High? Or you need to have Captain Rich Urina to provide photo and video, surveillance video. And you, mayor, and this city council member cannot reject to talk about this. I need to have Captain Rich Urina or sheriff. They cannot keep arrested. I already write to President Xi Jinping in China. Even I am a Taiwanese American, but China say they can protest us. I don't want to live in a city controlled by Nazi. But now you are Nazi because you encourage those police to falsify police report, encourage to assaulting women, encourage police to falsify police report and to harass residents of city of Cupertino. So I want you to answer today. We can, and Deborah Fang should let us know why we cannot put in agenda of city council meeting and invite Captain to come to here. Thank you.
Okay, next we have Lisa Warren, followed by Kitty Moore. Welcome, Lisa.
Thank you. So first I have a question. I came upon this document, well, it's not a document, I printed it. I came across something on the website, the city's website, when I was looking for something else. And I'm curious about it, so if I can somehow get feedback later what it is. It's a building permit feedback survey. And my assumption is that it should go to people who have just had their permit finalized and get feedback. I was in that situation. I did not get it. I don't know if we're supposed to know about it to be able to fill it out. I'm just curious, and it's not that I would have anything negative to say on it if I had it, but I'm just curious where this information goes if and when people are filling it out, and if the information is available to the public as an ongoing survey result, or if it's just an internal thing. But again, if it's not being given to people to complete it, I wonder why. I can't even, I guess the way to get to it is here, but anyway. So that's just a cursory question. And many of you know I've been frustrated by retail, supposed retail for the public as a public benefit, community benefit at Main Street, at the base of the 2 office buildings for years. And I've talked about how, to me, in my mind, when something is open from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. Monday through Friday only, and it is called Cafe Max, which is Apple's cafes, it doesn't seem like a public place. I know you can go in there. There's a price difference for the public and for Apple plays. But recently, I've learned that one of them is vacant. It's empty. They're not using it. So when and how is that retail space that is supposed to be a community benefit going to be replaced by some other retail? And I brought that up at a recent coffee talk because I was a follow-up question to another resident who was reiterating the fact that we still don't have retail defined. And I want that defined. I think the prior councils have wanted that defined, yet I feel like it's never happened. I remember Rod talking about, is a gum machine retail? And that came in with the Hyatt Hotel.
A vending machine.
Vending machine, right.
That vends gum. Thank you.
Yes, I did when we talked about the hotel.
And then we were assured that the restaurant at that hotel would be open to the public. And you know what? It's not. You can't go there for breakfast unless you're staying there. You can go there for other things, but I'm not sure what. Anyway, it's not open for breakfast, so it's limited. It's an ongoing problem, and the more and more development we have proposed in this city, we need to understand what that definition is, when it's violated, what happens, and who's in charge of it. And so I'm just bringing that up because it came up in a coffee talk. Thank you.
Great, and I think that's something, Madam City Manager, we should be looking into defining, because it is an issue, and I was not on the council at the time that hotel was built, but I do recall people asking, what is the retail? And there was really no answer. Okay, next we have Kitty Moore. Welcome, Kitty.
Good evening, City Council. I'm representing myself only. However, I am a member of the Planning Commission and I am the chair of the Environmental Review Committee. This is regarding the De Anza Hotel. The initial study and public review was on July 2nd, 2019. The project came to the Environmental Review Committee on August 1st of 2019. And it was recommended that it be granted the mitigated negative declaration, finding that the project is consistent with the general plan and determined to be insignificant. The project then came to the Planning Commission on December 10th, 2019. There was a late hit to the mitigated negative declaration, which came early December, and Placeworks addressed all the items in that late hit. And it sounds like after the Planning Commission approved this project or recommended it for approval, we had an even later hit to the mitigated negative declaration. So it sounds like something happened in January. So I'm hoping that you fully researched having this postponement, and if acquiescing to this late hit is appropriate, does the project now need to return to the Environmental Review Committee and the Planning Commission to be reviewed again? Because now it looks as though there's information that we didn't know about, and you have bypassed both those, the committee and the commission. So I'm concerned about that. And I'm wondering if you, again, have you fully researched the postponement? Is this appropriate? And how late, a late hit, are you going to take? Thank you.
So can the city attorney reply to that, please?
Yeah, CEQA allows comments to be submitted up until the close of the hearing. So under CEQA, comments are allowed very late. Now, the public agency, the city here reviewed the comments in consultation with the city attorney's office and decided we wanted more time to be able to review and respond to them. If the response is to amend the MND, there's standards for recirculation and open for additional comments. Otherwise, we will provide additional response to comments from the public agency. I'm not aware of a requirement to go back to the ERC or the Planning Commission to do that. The City Council is the final body that certifies and approves environmental documents. But I can look into that under our code to confirm.
Okay, because my concern is that if there is important information that wasn't presented to the ERC and the Planning Commission, that those bodies made recommendations based on faulty information, and I'm not happy with that at all.
Yeah, and my guess is we don't believe it's important information, but we're assessing that now.
Okay, thank you.
So can I ask, what do you mean by late hit in early December? What exactly is that?
Late hits are when the public comment period is closed.
So someone made some extra comments?
Yes, there was a letter from a group called Better Neighborhoods. I think that it's a group worth researching.
Oh, you are concerned that comments might introduce information that would change the underlying facts about the project.
Right, right. So the late hits that happened in December, Placeworks had time to address. So when it got to the Planning Commission, we had seen their responses already. So we had all that information in hand.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. So John, did you already speak, or are you done? Because you didn't use up all your time. If you wanted to say anything else under oral, this is the time.
My only point was if there were people who came here and we had the architect and you wanted to have some presentation for them, that we didn't inconvenience the people. We know, we've been advised that we need to respond to all these comments, and they just came, she said late. They came last night, I think. And I think that was strategically done they know that we need to respond to the comments. So that's it. We don't need to, we have everybody here in case there's questions or anything that the public wanted. That's
Okay,
all.
well, since it's not on the agenda, we can't really ask questions now on that.
Excuse me, I want to know why you cannot invite Captain come to here.
Okay.
I already addressed it for half a year.
So-
You can reject to listen to us.
So we're done with oral communications.
You have no right to be mayor.
If you don't sit down, we'll have you removed by the sheriff, so please just sit down.
To have Captain Richard to come to here. You want to be mayor again, but you reject to hear our voice.
Okay, so we are on to reports by council and staff. These are for any commissions and committees that you are on. Rod?
Yeah, the Cities Association has met once. We put up dots according to priorities. No surprise that housing, transportation, environment, sustainability, all scored well, and so I think that exercise will result in a set of priorities. Yeah.
Okay.
Priorities, and then as they want to, right? Committees can be formed to wrestle with these issues and bring items back to the board for consideration. And I think that's probably enough. There was some discussion, of course, about, no surprise, about SB 50 and other things coming down that are happening in Sacramento this year. Thank you.
Okay, Councilmember Chow.
So there was the Legislative Review Committee for the 2020 legislative platform. It will be on tonight's agenda, and also we had several subcommittee meetings on commission communication, and that's on tonight's agenda also. Yeah.
Okay, right, yeah, the main thing for me was also the legislative committee, and that will be on the agenda. So, Darcy?
So as part of our duties, the former vice mayor and I were council liaisons to the sister cities. So I wanted to make note and thank the Consul General of Japan for inviting us over to his home for dinner on December 19th, and also to thank Elisa Sakis of our Toyokawa sister city for coordinating that. So it was a very nice evening. And that was part of our sister city duties. With regard to the other meeting, there was a VTA PAC meeting. The Policy Advisory Committee of the Valley Transit Authority met this past week on the 16th, and assuming that the council assignments are consistent with what we're considering later this evening, I will be the vice chair of that body for this upcoming year. With regard to the substance of the meeting, I'd say probably the most salient report out is the fact that they were considering their express bus program. It's a very expensive program. It serves a relatively lower number of people, but it's a very important need because people are getting intra-county from, say, Gilroy or Morgan Hill to Mountain View for their work. Very expensive, though. I mean, if you priced it out, you could practically buy every 4 people a car every year so that they could carpool. But they have made it much more efficient, and they've developed partnerships with the local corporations. The local corporations are now putting in a fairly significant amount of money to defray the cost of the program. And so it is a much less inefficient program financially for the taxpayer now. They did do away with a couple of the express bus lines. And in addition to that, I think it's important for the public to know there is now funding that will match a broader Bay Area program for van pools. And this isn't a carpool. A carpool would be up to 4 people. A van pool would need to have at least 7 people. And so there is matching funding for what MTC is providing, I think something along the lines of $125 a month for van pool costs. So if you can get together with 6 other people in our local vicinity, and you're all heading to Mountain View, for instance, for work, then that funding is available to us now as part of what used to be the express bus program through the VTA, or at least it will be hopefully once the VTA board considers and approves it. Thanks.
Great. So we are on to the consent calendar.
Could I?
Yeah, sure.
Could I just comment on that? So I know I had a conversation with the new mayor of Mountain View, Margaret Abe-Koga.
Mm-hmm.
And to the end of what could we do as cities together, it turns out that Google doesn't want to run their shuttle anymore, as I understand it, but they do have dollars from Google. She is very interested in what we've done with VIA and would like to explore perhaps a partnership with the city that might allow us to expand this program. There are a lot of valuable destinations to Cupertino residents in Mountain View, which could include the hospital, El Camino Hospital, also Palo Alto Medical Foundation at 85 and El Camino Real, and obviously the Caltrain station in downtown Mountain View. So I wanted you to be aware of that, and I'm going to connect, Deb, I'm going to connect you and anybody you designate with Margaret and others in Mountain View to explore that. I've also heard some rumblings in some other cities, Sunnyvale perhaps, but Margaret was really clear that she had a big interest in moving this. So,
yeah, Los Altos was interested as well.
Yeah, so that may be some way to help get people around in our neighborhood in our orbit of cities.
So you mean Mountain View is stopping their in-city shuttle?
No,
but Google is still funding their commuter shuttle.
I believe Google is funding some shuttle in the city. I don't know the details, but she mentioned that they no longer want to run it, but apparently are willing to supply some funding. And so she was very interested in our model. She wanted to hear all about the numbers. And I will just say anecdotally, so I don't have to say it again at the end, my family rode this quite a bit over the holidays to try it out. And even today, my wife went through the city back and forth on it and found that in talking to the driver that a couple of things. One is by far the most trips are coming and going to and from the Caltrain station in Sunnyvale. So that's the biggest destination origin. The second is that driver on a shift was doing just a few rides at the beginning and is now doing 20, 25, 30 a day. So it seems to be, and I see the vans really circulating. During the holidays, people were pretty quiet, but there seems to be a lot of activity now. So I'm looking forward to a report on this program on a periodic basis. So thank you.
Well, thanks for the comment. I will say, relevant to the VTA PAC, there was an expression of interest from the Santa Clara representative
cool.
to the PAC of collaborating with us as well. And I'll also say that VTA doesn't really have the point-to-point infrastructure set up.
Right.
And this is
they
absolutely
don't do
a
on-demand,
gap in
right?
that,
Except
type of
if you
thinking.
call way ahead.
Right.
So.
And so with regard to being able to have a convergence point, I know that they have a pot of funding, some grant opportunities available to us.
So that could also help, right?
Right. And so I don't get the sense sitting on the PAC that they are averse to supporting and even working with us financially to expand this program. I think point-to-point is just so tremendously valuable. The city manager and I were communicating this past weekend with regard to the Civic Center congestion, for instance. I did receive feedback from a resident over the weekend that it was extremely busy during a certain point of time on Saturday, And perhaps, if we're using point-to-point shuttling and there isn't a readily available parking lot, a shuttle could be used to help alleviate that congestion in the Civic Center. And so it's certainly a mode of transit that I think if we're kind of eyeballing it and working together with VTA, we could probably amass the funding, as opposed to kind of grumbling and, having that kind of deficit existing. So, it's great to hear. And certainly I'll reach out to Mayor Abekoga. She sits on the VTA PAC as well.
Yeah,
so it's a good forum to have these discussions.
So it sounds like we're up to 5 cities now.
Yeah.
Well, it's going to take an agreement, and when
What
the
about a
service territory
JPA?
expands, it'll cost. So she actually mentioned that to me. So I think
We can do that in a couple of ways.
Yeah,
Our transportation manager, Chris Correo, late last year gave a presentation to the Los Altos City Council. I believe that was in mid-November.
Yeah.
We can do the same in Mountain View. We can also, the mayor and I were starting the North Valley Mayors and Managers meeting. This can be one of those offerings,
Right.
to have Chris do a presentation and a talk, because we know there's some interest growing. So it's pretty exciting. And yes, Vice Mayor Paul and I were discussing how we could solve this little Civic Center problem that we have with parking, and I think the use of the VIA shuttle would be awesome. So Chris and the team are going to talk about it.
I also heard anecdotally that the driver said he is moving a lot of school kids around. So for all of us worried about congestion around schools, this seems to be a thing now. I understand we don't have much pooling yet, right?
Yes. Council is due for a data update on the VIA
Okay.
shuttle, I think in the next weeks.
Great.
Not too far.
Well,
So I didn't
great, we're
recall,
looking forward
is there an age minimum to use the VIA shuttle? I think there is. I don't
I
remember.
heard there was, but
And we will be having an update, and so I
Okay.
think further discussion could be
Right,
at
it's
that
not
time.
agendized, so we should not talk about this
yeah,
anymore.
I understand.
Okay. All right, so we are on to the consent
you.
calendar. Did anybody want to pull anything from consent? You do.
I would like to talk about the ledge platform. number 9.
Okay. So besides number 9, I'll entertain a motion for the consent calendar.
I would like to move that we approve consent items number 5 through 8.
Okay.
Oh, is
Oh.
there another card up there to?
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'll withdraw that motion pending
Okay. pending
examination
that.
of the blue
Okay.
cards.
Which numbers are these?
6 and 8.
Okay, so 9's already pulled, so 6. Okay, so you can redo the motion for.
I move items 5, 7, and 8 of the consent calendar.
Okay, second. Vote.
The motion carries with Councilmember Willie absent.
Okay, so for number 6, I have one card. Peggy Griffin, would you like to speak on this?
Mayor Scharf, council members, and staff. My only concern on electronic records management is, well, I have 2. One is the scan resolution for documents that are submitted on paper. I've gone through previous records sometimes and I can't read them because the scan was poor. It was low resolution. The other thing is verification of a good scan, that the document actually is clear and legible. Sometimes I see them and they're upside down or backwards or not in order. So those are the 2 things I'd like to address to see, who's actually looking at them if somebody submits a paper document that you're going to destroy. Thank you.
Thank you, that's good feedback. Also, I recall we had an issue regarding using PDFs instead of actual scans, and the PDF was not the same as what the document actually showed. So that was a very big issue. Yes, we have we have Bill Mitchell here, our Chief Technology Officer. welcome.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Again, this is Bill Mitchell. I'm the Chief Technology Officer for the city. So the trusted system that we're putting in ties in with our Laserfish document management system. So a few things that we've changed in the system. So one that happens is all documents that go in with verbiage, with words, will be OCR, means optical character recognition. So you won't be looking at a picture, you'll actually be reading text. So that clarification, that document will be coming out clear. As far as pictures, we have very high res scanners that we utilize for this purpose. They are reviewed before going in. We will talk to staff about making sure that the orientation is proper. Now, discussion on the PDF and what happened there. So the document itself looked like the original document didn't come forward. Actually, the original document did come forward, but what happened is it was scanned in layers, right? So think of a hamburger, bun, hamburger, bun, right? Instead of bringing it all together and bringing it forward, it did a bun, then a hamburger, then a bun. So when you were looking at it, depending on how you printed it out, you could get the whole hamburger, or you could just get a bun and a hamburger, or just a bun. Does that make sense? So what
you
we've
do this
done,
with tacos as well?
yeah,
or-
tacos, the same thing. So what we've done now is part of the policy that Terry Gerhardt and her staff has done is that documents have to be flattened. That means all those layers have to be compressed together and scanned in and then OCR'd that way. So any markup will be seen and visible on the document.
Great.
Of course, I'm here to answer any other questions that you may have.
Anyone? I don't have any more.
Awesome. Thank you.
Oh, wait.
Guess.
Wait, don't leave.
Question. So these are about documents. How about web pages? I have not been able to find past web pages that's posted on city website. Are these archived or not?
Mayor, Councilmember Chow, that's a great question. Recently, we've put versioning into our web pages, so those versionings will be able to go back to previous versions. We did not have that 6 months ago. We do have that now.
So we don't have any past web pages at all?
We don't.
Oh, too bad.
Yeah.
Because I remember, for example, Main Street web page has very good information, document all the approval process. And now I try to find it. It's not there anymore.
Yeah, that's called versioning for us. When we make modifications to pages, the past versions get snapshotted and saved. That wasn't happening in the previous version. That's a vendor-controlled application that we have, and we're kind of at their mercy. Versioning was one of the things that Nidhi Mathur, who's our applications manager, pressed, and we've got that in now.
Great. So the future web pages will be archived with
That is
different
correct.
versions. Great.
So this applies to all content, not just the web pages that are updated, correct? So if, for instance, a project just has been approved and we don't have it on the website anymore, then this versioning will allow us to go back and...
So the versioning is just for the website. We do have what we are doing for other records retention. As they get scanned in, they're meeting records retention. So say, for example, a payroll document, 6 years. We're going to keep that as it was originally scanned for 6 years into our system. After that 6 years, then it gets deleted. That's what the trusted system's all about.
So how about digital surveys? Are those archived?
So that's a good question for our GIS manager, who's here today.
It's the same as Bill was saying regarding records retention in Laserfish versus the website. It's saved as long as the retention is that's set to it. So if that survey is based on, it depends on the classification of the survey and the retention associated with that classification. Does that make sense?
So Councilmember Chow, did we answer your question there? So it depends, so records retention depends on the type of content, right, and how that content fits. And for the most part, we're following what state law mandates as a minimum for that document. So if a survey comes in as part of a plat, as part of a project that goes forward, we're going to save that with that project file as long as the project file meets records retention requirements. Once it no longer meets records retention requirements, it moves on.
So it will be saved as a web page or
No.
saved as PDF?
It'll be saved as a PDF for viewing. The reason these are saved as PDFs, PDF is the ubiquitous viewer
that
for
makes
people,
sense.
right? It's a
Okay.
free viewer that everybody has.
Yeah, the reason I ask is that these digital surveys, sometimes you need to generate the report, right? So I'm not sure whether the generated report is saved. So it's saved according to this process, right?
I'm sorry, I'm confused what you mean by generated report.
I think usually I need to click something to say generate this report. So it's not right there. But when I take a survey, after I take it, I can say I want to see the result, right? Because it's not a ready-made PDF, it's generated. So I'm just wondering, do we always generate it and save it at the end?
The survey itself, it depends, again, on the content of the survey. So, for example, TIC did a survey recently about, are you happy with your internet services? That probably doesn't meet any records retention requirement whatsoever. So we're not going to save that. It'll stay on the web until we feel, we need to refresh that and put something else there.
So you are not going to save the result of the internet survey?
We'll only save it as long as records retention tells us to save it.
So what do you mean records retention?
So in your packet
tells
is a
you-
records retention schedule. That schedule outlines each, how long we have to save for each type of document.
Yeah.
So that's part of the staff report that you have. There's a records retention schedule that's included in that.
Mm-hmm.
And that records retention, we always look at, what that record type is
Okay.
and how long we have to save that for.
So, for example, the survey probably it's saved internally as an Express sheet, so that will be saved, right?
It depends. So the spreadsheet may be saved into a folder that we could always access if need be, always being as long as that content meets records retention.
Okay.
So for example, the internet survey, would there be value 20 years from now to go back and look at that internet survey? Probably not.
So federal and state law require records retention, and they put a schedule out that we abide by.
Yeah, I know.
And so if, for
all
example,
the record is
if, for
that.
example, it's
What
if, for example, it's a financial report, for example, it usually says you have to save it for 6.18 year, strangely.
Oh, okay.
But they all have very specific timelines for the specific content. So if the survey you're talking about is a financial survey, it'd probably be retained for 6 1/8 year.
Oh, okay. So you mean like internet survey, it will have specific length, but it will be saved according to whatever similar document.
If there's no category in the records retention schedule that says an internet survey with the content of internet service quality is retained, we can get rid of it at any time. But we probably would keep it for some period of time until we deem it meaningless.
So if there is no category, we don't save the data, like the web pages.
It's not that
before.
we don't have a mandate to save it. And at some point, our systems won't be able to handle everything.
So most likely the way we're going to set this up is we're going to look at what the minimum records retention requirement is per classification. So that may be 1 year. So at that time, those things that fit that records retention delete after 1 year, we'll probably be deleting non-classified items at the same time. That way we don't have to continually look at these things. We just say this is a non-classified item. After a year of service, it goes away. It's just an automatic delete.
So for example, like the web pages, is there a mandate to save it or not?
There is not.
There is
but
no.
There is not on just normal web pages, but again, we will be keeping the versioning on that.
But then you don't have to keep it for a mandated amount, length of time.
Only if it meets some of the criteria. There could be things on the web page that meet the criteria, but a lot of the information is not.
Okay, so we are on to, well, Oh, do you want to, I was going to move both of them together. All right,
Oh,
but that's fine. No.
I move
yeah.
item 6.
Yeah, go ahead and move item 6. Okay, I'll second. Vote.
Thank you.
The motion carries with Councilmember Willie absent.
Okay, we are on to item 9. So for this one, can we have our staff report? Welcome, Katie.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and Council members. So the Legislative Review Committee reviewed last year's legislative platform, made some recommended updates, and is here before you this evening. If there are specific questions or desires for edits, we're open to hearing that feedback.
Okay, Rod, you pulled this, so.
Yeah, I did. I appreciate the whole effort, and I just wanted to have the council consider one change to the very, very last item. It's item 13, and I arranged to have Katie be able to put this up on the screen. The platform, this deals with transportation, and the item as written is rather generic, and so I'm suggesting a language change here that has some specificity to it. And specifically, one concern I have, given what's going on at VTA, they're in a crisis of ridership, a crisis of finances, and I know there have been moves afoot to reprogram some of the 2016 Measure B money, and without taking a position on that necessarily, I'm very concerned that San Jose will attempt to take away the $350 million that we successfully negotiated in this measure for transit on Highway 85, and I'd like to have the city be on record as opposing a reprogramming of those funds. The second sub-bullet here, I think we ought to be talking about a transit measure in the greater Bay Area that we could call fair, for example, and not simply faster. And that means supporting transit initiatives that bring people to the jobs-rich cities in north and west of San Jose, so this part of the county, and that these measures be funded by means other than a general sales tax increase. So those are my two sub-bullets for your consideration in replacing the rather generic 13.
Okay, item A, the wording seems a little unclear at the end. It says to reprogram 2016 Measure B funds of $350 million for it.
Well, for transit on SR 85.
Right, so why don't we put that back in, because it wasn't really, to someone reading it, they might not understand what it
Well, yeah, so
it
specifically it's new transit on
Right.
85. Fair enough.
Right, and yeah, I have heard of the efforts to move the Measure B funds around. I think, even though many people would say, well, yeah, we should be spending more on transit, less on highways, I'm just a little concerned that, the voters voted for Measure B and they know what they voted for. And to start changing that all around would kind of lose, I think we'd lose the trust of the people that voted for Measure B.
Well, and you can consider this compounded on the measure in 2000, Measure A, where promises were made to Cupertino that were never kept.
Correct.
And in that case, there was a simple majority needed to reprogram funds, and they did, right? So now money is going to East Ridge, it went to Campbell, that we could have argued belonged here. So anyway, this is...
So what was the original wording? What's changed?
We just turned it into a
just
specific.
adding 85?
Right, this was added, right? This was...
So it's
right. I mean, this was...
If you look at it as
clarifying, yeah.
The idea was to replace number 13 here with the more specific language.
Could you copy this over
Yes.
so I can compare? Okay. Okay. So for item A, And transit on 85 is certainly important. However, the most congested segment of highway is 280 through Cupertino. This is according to a survey done, and that's the most congested in all of Bay Area, including San Francisco, except Route 80 bridge. So I think I would not only want to support transit on 85. I think we need a transit along 280 also.
Well, I mean, this does say including, and I think what Rod,
No, right now the first sentence says creating new transit on
I'd be happy to create a
85.
point C, talking about 280 and Stevens.
How about
the
saying
280 Stevens Creek corridor?
New transit such as on 85 and 280, and then opposing reprogram the fund.
I mean, I kind of think since transit on 85 has been promised since 19 what?
Well, you can go back to 1977.
Right. I think that
1991.
Right. I remember when they opened the extension of
2000,
when they opened the extension of 85.
Yep.
I think in 1993 or 4.
Yes.
That was transit was supposed to be there in the median. I think it deserves its own.
I mean,
we can add 280.
If we want to do 280
and
Stevens Creek, maybe we make that a
C.
Or C, or rearrange them. So that's item, 280 Stevens Creek corridor is B. I mean, the council's previously weighed in on that.
Let's put opposing any attempt to a separate item and leave A for transit. So creating new transit on SB 85 as well as 280. SR 85 as well as 280. Yeah. So then the first item is just about transit. And then the opposing
it works fine.
For Major B is a separate item.
So this
because
is
I know Major B covers 85.
So nitpicking here, is it SR 85 or is it CA 85?
It's called by Caltrans thinks it's State Route 85.
Okay.
That's the official name. I think 280, right, is Interstate 280 or I-280, if you want to put a letter in front of that. Yeah. But Darcy's also been working on this 280 Stevens Creek corridor thing, and I'm happy with this folded in. You might put / Stevens Creek because
I'm not sure about rapid transit on Stevens Creek though. So the first one is just
this
transit.
Does what I wanted.
Transit.
Yeah.
So let's not talk about rapid bus route on Stevens Creek. That's a separate issue.
Yeah, fair enough.
Did you want them to be two separate bullets or the same bullet?
I'm happy with this now.
Yeah, I still have your card, Jennifer. Okay. Sure, Jennifer, why don't you come up now and speak while we're, Katie's
I
getting
appreciate
rid
the
of the
council
arrows here.
considering this.
Sure, no
idea.
problem.
I would say right now, I think that this legislation platform thing has been totally enlightening. I have learned so much. Cupertino needs a way to understand and attempt to be part of the statewide conversation. And up until this point, the cities have not been, no one at Sacramento level wanted the cities to be part of the conversation, and Cupertino is now. Things that have been signed affect us directly. They affect whether a duplex can be built on my neighbor's lot. And all of my relatives in Oregon can have duplexes built on their neighbors' lots. My 92-year-old aunt in Bend can have a duplex, triplex, or fourplex built on her neighbor's lot. This is the type of hell in a handbasket legislation that we're going into, and I resent the fact that no one in Sacramento wants the citizens of the state to be at the table making suggestions. This is our land, our history, our homes, our cities. And this, as far as I'm concerned, is the first level of pushback. So, SB 50 needs to go to a vote of the people. And I will talk about for a minute what was going on with 280-85 Stevens Creek. I went to a meeting recently where San Jose is building a very, very large office building at Saratoga and Stevens Creek. There have been little or no discussions about upgrading the 280 and Saratoga interchange. Right now, if you're not familiar with it, El Paseo is supposed to go to 12 stories of something, housing, office, who knows. That is at the other end of Saratoga. In the middle is 280. That is the most god-awful corridor. Yes, 280 and 85 is bad, Stevens Creek. Saratoga, I drive it daily. You could sit there and die in your car. San Jose needs to begin to realize that they're building out of proportion for that area, and they're not planning upgrades to 280. And we will not have anything going down the middle of Stevens Creek Boulevard, because I'm at the east end of Cupertino, and we will not let anything come into Cupertino unless it has been discussed. I can tell you right now, I've lived there for 25 years, and nothing is coming down Stevens Creek from Santa Clara or San Jose unless they discuss it with the eastern neighborhoods. We have taken the brunt of the assault of the building, and it is ongoing. So I think I really like the previous version we had. Okay, if you want to update A, B, and C, that's fine. But I think that, and I mean, I'm sorry, it is pothole land. San Jose,
please finish up, Jennifer.
San Jose cannot take care of their roads. El Camino is a mess. There are potholes everywhere. 17, I don't know, somebody fixed it. I don't want any funding taken anywhere unless they pave the roads. Thank you.
Thank you. I have received 2 more cards. Dasha Leeds, followed by Lisa Warren. Welcome, Dasha Leeds.
Hello, my name is Dasha Leeds. I'm a conservation assistant for the Sierra Club Loma Prieta chapter. I've spoken on behalf of my chapter in support of Measure B reallocation funds at the county level. I believe this is a really important thing to consider. We are literally running out of time in this climate crisis, and transportation is the #1 source of greenhouse gas emissions in this area. And we have a real deficit, downward spiral of public transit. And meanwhile, we're devoting more and more funds to road expansion, which quite frankly, systemically doesn't solve the issue. And I've seen some of these meetings, and these are led by students. You know, these are many kids who are not even close to voting age, are going to these meetings, reading through agendas, and leading political movements in support of reallocation. And I think that's something really remarkable, and I think it speaks to the urgency of this issue. So I would just recommend against Cupertino taking a public stance against reallocation at this point. I would urge you to support it, but
I'm sorry, but you do understand what I'm talking about is retaining the funds for transit on 85.
Okay, so
Are you reading what's on the screen?
I'm misunderstanding you then. Okay.
Well, can you read what's on the screen? All right, would you be opposed to this, if I might ask? I know you were interested in reprogramming toward more transit. This is to simply make sure that funds that were designated for transit don't get misused elsewhere.
Okay. Well, in that case, I guess I retract my comment then. And okay.
I just want to be sure you understood what you were talking about.
And I would also, I know there was somebody that said, well, a representative of another city who said, no, let's not put transit on 85. Let's just add another vehicle lane.
Cars. That would be
cars.
county
And that, yes, okay, I wasn't going to mention names.
Why not?
But, yeah, that is something that I would definitely oppose, and hopefully, because adding more lanes is not going to solve this problem. a few months or a year, it'll be just as crowded as it was before.
Well, and the big point is we'll be moving a minimal incremental number of people.
Exactly.
We need to move tens of thousands more, not 1,000, right, an hour.
And I do fear, though, if it's a bus lane and after 3 years, no one's using the buses, then there's going to be pressure. Oh, let's open it up to cars, which is not something that I would like to see personally. We were promised transit in the 85 corridor decades ago, and we should be getting it. We just, can't go on like we are with the traffic.
Thank you.
So anyway, thank you.
Okay, appreciate it.
And then last I have Lisa Warren.
So this is just an add-on comment from a previous speaker mentioning El Paseo, what's been proposed there. I learned today, I knew from the site plans that there were 2 buildings marked with the words education, and I thought, what does that mean? Is this going to be a school? And indeed, Sand Hill plans to put a, how do I say this? What was the term used? Anyway, a la-di-da, that's not the words that they said, international private school, K through 12, in multi-story buildings right there at El Paseo. And they will have, I think it's 500 boarding units. It'll be a boarding school, but not every one, the K through 12, 2,500 students, not to mention staff, will be housed there. So there will be, who knows where these students will come from and how that will affect the transit. So there's just a piece of information I learned today, and I know there's a lot of people curious about what it is, but that is a big part of the plan. It is the plan. So that's what some of those buildings are. Thank you.
Great. And I guess that's up to the city of San Jose there. Darcy.
I'm fine with going with A and B as written on the bottom here. I don't think it's a good idea to, in this forum, say that we're supporting funding of those measures by means other than a general sales tax increase, because we do have a very large sales tax in front of us. And without saying whether we oppose or support it, I think this puts us in a position of making a public statement that could be used against us in the event that this passes. So that's $100 billion over the next 40 years. And I wouldn't want us to be in a position where 10 years down the line, they point at this statement and say, well, Cupertino didn't want this general sales tax increase. So I think this compromises us fiscally. I don't think it's a good idea to put C here. I will compromise on 280 and not including the Stevens Creek corridor. I appreciate Councilmember Sinks putting that language in there and being willing to entertain it. But I mean, this doesn't preclude us considering it. And I do hear what the public is saying is that they want to have input into it. And I absolutely agree with that. I mean, I have a good amount of track record of taking in public input in that manner and processing it. But I think it's just not a great idea to be that specific about the general sales tax increase. Essentially just rejecting it out of hand.
How about funding these measures by means other than regressive taxes or?
I'm fine with that. I mean, you can make your leaps. I mean, one could well argue that, missing out on any amount of money from a pot of funds is not the best kind of fire to play with. But I mean, sure, if we want to make a policy statement that basically says, look, we should re-examine taxes based upon fairness, and if it's regressive and it's basically adversely impacting the people that have less means in an equitable manner, then yes, let's absolutely.
Right. I mean, propose some language. Yeah, I like the word equitable because, I mean, the issue we see is that we're funding with sales tax. You're funding it with money from the people that can least afford the tax increase and that are most likely to use the transit.
I mean, we can say supporting funding of those measures in an equitable manner. I mean,
Okay,
I just,
yeah.
I think when we're getting,
People can
we're
say
getting,
sales tax is equitable.
I don't think so.
well, I mean,
So
but
it's
are you
really-
gonna anticipate every single possibility here? I mean, I
Yeah.
think that actually, I agree with the comment that this original statement, it was brief, it was to the point, it was flexible enough to allow us some, leeway in case things happen over the course of the year. But if we really want to get specific, I think that, I would be voting against this if we had this as it was originally written on C, unless we could break it out into, separate motions. But I think as it's written right now, that I could support this.
Okay, all right, so let's get rid of that.
Equitable?
Yeah, get rid of this line down here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So item B right now, it's just opposing any attempt to reprogram, whatever form of reprogram, even if it doesn't touch the transit funding.
Yeah, so I can explain this. So when voters, when this went to the ballot after a hard-fought negotiation between San Jose, the Silicon Valley Leadership Group, and the rest of the cities in the county, and that's kind of how it is, we insisted on a higher threshold for reprogramming. The VTA board needs 9 votes to decide to reprogram Measure B funding. In the prior measure, it was only 7 of 12, okay? So it's a higher threshold, and the board would have to vote. If they get enough votes, they can change what voters passed in 2016.
So I thought we just want to oppose any diverting of fund from 85 transit.
Well, no, this is very specific, which is, in that negotiation, we won $350 million for new transit on Highway 85, a transit system on Highway 85. And that probably won't pay for it all, but it's a good start.
So this 350 million, it was allocated specifically for
that was
85.
enumerated in Measure B of 2016, as passed by voters. So there's a total of $6.3 billion, of which we got,
Okay,
0.35 billion.
Right.
That's more clear.
So
Yeah.
what
I
Katie
thought
just added right now is very critical.
Yeah.
I mean, because, it could be any $350 million
Yeah. So
Well, I said
I'm not sure.
2016 Measure B funds of 350, right?
But there are other parts of Measure B funds.
Right.
that We are not opposing
no,
if people want to
I'm not
reprogram.
trying
Right.
to get
Yeah.
into that here. but-
Okay.
I'd like to move
So
that.
I like the original statement that says, because right now, the current one is all about transit, right? So the original one was provide direct tangible benefits to Cupertino and surrounding regions. It was not specifically about transit, it was support transportation legislation. So I'm just wondering, do we not want to support other transportation legislation that provide tangible benefits?
That's a good point. Maybe we need maybe
Well, why don't we just take
do
this
a 13
sentence?
and a 14.
Why don't we just take this sentence and move
As
it
the
here?
first one,
Yeah,
right?
and before the
And then
including,
specifically, the following.
right. And then, and then delete everything until including, between where the cursor is and including,
You can say specifically regional transit, such, including.
Okay.
I'd like to, okay. and-
Probably specifically including, so.
What?
No, we don't need the word
No?
specifically there.
Okay.
Yeah, we
No.
can't wordsmith the sentence anymore in
And
this
so,
meeting.
can we get rid of this, please? Yeah.
May I make a suggestion?
Sure.
On item B, would you want to put that in more of the affirmative, such as support the preservation of 2016 Measure B funds of 350?
Support the preservation of?
Yeah, instead of
it's better to
oppose
be,
Right.
Positive.
Yeah. And then just a question, certainly it's up to council. On number C, do you want to say equitable manner and multiple methods? as not to state one singular, for example, type of tax or anything like that.
I think equitable manner is sufficient.
Okay.
I'd like to move.
Wait, so those measures, those measures, what does that refer to?
Yeah, that doesn't make
Because
sense to me.
right now, there is only Measure B.
Support funding of new measures,
Mhm.
new transportation measures in an equitable manner. But those is a mess.
Yeah, it's unclear.
I mean, you can say of the above described.
No, it's
new ones.
It's new ones,
We're
right?
talking about new
Yeah,
ones.
okay, support
And
funding.
there
of
I would put
transit
transportation altogether because it's
Okay.
Of new transit measures or just transit
new
measures?
transit measures, yes. Because these things have already sailed, right? We've already got a half-cent sales tax, which is the 2016 Measure B.
But we kind of lost, Rod's original statement has the fairer, right? It's.
Has it what?
He
Yes,
used
I
the
like
word
that
fair.
language for what it's worth.
And that word fair, it was followed by the second part of item A right now, which is bring people to the jobs-rich cities of North and West San Jose. Because the current transit system that has been built was not fair, because those transit, the light rail, they don't serve not many people take them because it doesn't really reach the job-rich area people really need to go to. Plus, it's slow.
Okay,
But-
how about reinforcing the importance of creating new transit in a fair manner, comma, such as on SR 85?
No, I think that gums up that whole idea too much.
This is too complicated.
Because that's all done. I mean,
Yeah. Well, it doesn't, I mean.
I don't think
I
it-
wouldn't put
it-
in the fair manner part, but.
No.
you know,
Yeah, I mean,
on B, I think to have it work, you have to say Measure B funds of 350 million, which were, because funds are plural. And that is, so make that which
that
were.
are, or how about that are dedicated, or.
Well, they
there
were
just one
dedicated at the
fund?
time of the vote.
Right, so that are
Which
dedicated.
are, sure, you could do that too.
Which are or that are. Okay.
Shouldn't Measure B fund be singular because there is just one fund? Or
No,
No.
are there
don't,
multiple
please.
Measure B? Okay.
Yeah, I suggest you
Okay.
do something.
I will move
All
the
right.
motion as written
Okay.
on the screen.
Okay, I'll second. Please vote.
Well, okay, and I'm sorry, that is the recommendations as written with number 13 on transit modified as was on the screen, just to clarify what my motion was.
Right, I think we got that.
The motion carries with Councilmember Willie absent.
Thank you all for that.
Okay, what time is it now? It's 8:30. Well, we can go on to the second reading of, let's go on to item 10, adoption of local amendments to the 2019 California Energy and Green Building Standards Codes, REACH Code, determination that adoption of the proposed ordinance is not a project subject to CEQA, or that it is a project, it is exempt from CEQA. So can we have the staff report? Who is?
I don't know that we have a staff report on a second reading.
Right, it's right, that's true, it's the second reading, so we don't need another staff report. I do have two cards. One has no name on it. It just says item 10, and then one is from Rhoda Fry. So who is the no name? Okay, this is you, Jennifer? Okay. Followed by Rhoda Fry, followed by,
We had two things postponed, so it's
followed
like-
by Diane Bailey. Okay, welcome, Jennifer.
Hello, City Council. Hi, I'm Jennifer Griffin, and I've been following this item. I'm very, very concerned about jumping on the bandwagon, doing this without really having a big discussion with the public. We have to remember that anything that happens with power lines that AT&T goes with it too. I can tell you that some of the comments and discussions that I have heard at the statewide level, and some of the people that are not familiar with how AT&T and PG&E operate their power lines, have been hysterical. There are 75-year-old reciprocal maintenance agreements with AT&T and PG&E with those power poles. And now you also have some of the cell phone carriers that are involved too. The comments from the governor, even Scott Wiener is working on a PG&E bill. I mean, I'm like, come on. Some of the comments have just been hysterical. We cannot, and also too, I have been reading about the HB 2001 implementation in Oregon, and one of the discussions is by the real estate, by putting in the duplexes and triplex, remember this is legal across the state as of last summer, is that developers are going to use this by not having to put in gas. It is cheaper to build. Now this is honest to God in the, I would call it, the discussions of what's happening in Oregon because of the duplex law, HB 2001, that the discussion is that because they've gotten rid of gas, these developers that are going in and buying up areas of the cities and putting in the duplexes and triplexes, and now they don't have to put in gas, they say it is cheaper to build without gas. But if you have homes without, it's more expensive to heat a home with electricity than it is with gas. And what they will do is they will pass on that cost to the new homeowners. Also for office buildings, you can build cheaper. This is Oregon. This is in the dialogue of what's going on up there. Believe me, their whole state is under the gun. If you get rid of gas, then you can build new buildings cheaper. That means office buildings, but you have to heat somebody. So that means to heat them, they pass that on to whoever's renting the building. And this is the truth of what's happening in Oregon. That is why I am so concerned about us getting rid of gas. This is not something we should go into capriciously because believe me, because of these housing bills, I am so suspicious of somebody telling the public, oh, we have to do this now. I'm sorry. The ship has sailed. The public want to know. So I say, let's don't go into this just because Scott Wiener said we should. I don't want to give up my gas. And believe me, I've already decided we are not remodeling our house. Thank you.
Okay, and we are not doing this based on...
Can we clarify? Because my understanding is in Cupertino, these building codes applies to Cupertino buildings. In Cupertino, electricity is not more expensive than gas because we have the clean energy.
No, that's
right?
not true.
Is that not true?
No.
I thought that's...
I mean,
it's not too expensive.
So an electric water heater costs more to operate than a gas water heater. There's no argument there. But this is not about the cost of operating it. There's other reasons why we're doing this.
Yeah, and also I think in case of a power outage, it's in fact easier to have a backup electricity generator than having your gas cut out, and then you cannot do anything, right? And gas also needs electric igniter to operate, even for the heater, right?
I'll say my comments for. I think we should hear from the rest of the public.
Okay, Rhoda Fry, followed by Diane Bailey, followed by Dasha Leeds. Welcome, Rhoda.
Hi, I'd like to see you guys allow for adding on to this building code it's not going far enough. So go ahead if you need to pass this tonight, but we need to add on. Jennifer was right. It is less costly to build without gas. The thing that we do need is we need energy efficiency. So what we have here is that we can build with electricity only, but if the building is not energy efficient, then it will cost the tenants more money. And of course, it will use more energy, and that's what's incinerating our planet. So there's two parts to this. There's the financial part, which means if you build a property for rent, then as far as affordable housing component, it's not going to be as affordable if the energy costs are higher. So we need to look at energy efficiency in addition to what we're going to do with gas and electric. And where Cupertino is with the building codes is far behind other cities. The other thing we're far behind on, it's the building envelope, right? The energy efficiency part, water efficiency, and also VOCs and whatnot. So if you look at the codes in Los Altos and Menlo Park, even some of the ones in San Jose, they are stronger than the ones here. It is easier to build in Cupertino, but we want Cupertino to be better, right? So I hope that you can reserve the right to look at the building codes piece of this. This is different. Everybody's going for these electrical gas reach codes, but there's another component, and you really need to have both. I hope I've explained myself. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Rhoda. Next, we have Diane Bailey, followed by Dasha Leeds. Welcome.
Hi, good evening, Mayor Scharf and council members. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to this item. My name is Diane Bailey. I'm with Menlo Park, a local climate action organization aimed at a zero carbon future, not just for Menlo Park, but for the whole region, and also with the Fossil Free Buildings campaign comprised of 30 different groups working together to phase out natural gas and fossil fuels from buildings. Here in strong support of this action tonight, and just want to note that you'll be in good company with 12 other cities in the area taking similar actions and 24 statewide. I wanted to just clarify a couple of misconceptions. All electric buildings are really becoming the norm, and as I've noted in the past, there are some guidebooks that detail a lot of different examples, not just around our state, but across the country. More and more architecture firms are telling us that all of their projects are all electric. This is the way to go. But we appreciate your adoption of this code. It's really important to move these practices into mainstream because some of the contractors and builders are really not adopting these practices quickly enough. I want to address the issue of cost for a moment because all electric buildings do save a lot of money. And when it comes to the operation of electric water heaters versus gas, it's important to note that all of the homes starting this year have to be net zero energy and have solar to meet the state code. So the state code has really stepped up with energy efficiency, and that means all of the new homeowners are going to save money. But the financial savings are assured with the use of solar, and this is becoming the new normal for all the new homes. So I just want to repeat some of the past comments that we are in a climate crisis. We are running out of time to act. This is a very important climate action for this year to help get us off of fossil fuels. And the all-electric homes and buildings really improve the resilience of our communities. They improve air quality and health. And so I really applaud your action on this. I want to thank staff for all of their hard work on this. And it's been a lot of hard work on their part. And I hope you'll move forward swiftly tonight to finalize this important REACH code. Thank you.
So I had a question. So instead of hundreds of cities passing these, is there any state action coming forward?
Yeah, I'm so glad you asked. So we are hoping that at least 50 different cities across the state will move forward with REACH codes this year, and that will move to statewide adoption through legislation. The reason I note legislation is because the State Energy Commission notes that they have building electrification goals to move the state code by 2030. That is far too long of a time frame, and so legislation can really scoot that up. In the next code cycle coming in 2022, the state is not currently planning on requiring all electric homes or buildings, but that can change if enough cities take action. So thank you for being one of those leadership cities.
Great, thank you. Last I have Dasha Leeds, welcome.
Hello. Dasha Leeds. I'm a conservation assistant for the Sierra Club Loma Prieta chapter. I'd like to start off with a thank you. Thank you to staff who've worked so hard on this, and thank you to the Sustainability Commission, particularly Vignesh and Mira from the Reach Code Subcommittee. You've done some awesome work on this as well as Gary Latshaw from the Sustainability Commission. I think this is a truly excellent Reach Code in terms of the electrification component. I think it is probably the strongest in the region, and I think that's something we can all really be proud of. This is really the first step, the tip of the iceberg. We're looking at things that don't exist yet, and we're trying to avoid making our problems worse. And I think that's really laudable, and it's cause to celebrate, but hopefully not for too long, because we have a lot still left to do in terms of climate action. And I hope that this is sort of the beginning of a momentum that shifts not only this city, but other cities in the state and cities across the country and around the world in terms of strong climate action. So thank you for starting down this path with a strong first step, and we look forward to continuing further. Thanks.
Great, thank you. Okay, that is all the cards I have. So, right, okay. Can the city clerk conduct the second reading?
This is the second reading of ordinance number 19-2193, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Cupertino amending City Code Chapters 16.54 and 16.58, adopting the 2019 California Energy Code and Green Building Standards with certain exceptions, deletions, modifications, additions, and amendments.
Great.
I'll move this item. I move that ordinance number 192193 be read by title only, and that the city clerk's reading constitute the second reading thereof.
Okay, second. Vote.
The motion carries with Councilmember Willie being absent.
And I move that ordinance number 19-2193 be enacted.
Second. Vote.
And I'll say this is one of the most consequential things we've done, second to perhaps creating SVCE on climate. And I'm proud of my colleagues in the city and staff. Thank you very much.
Motion carries with Willie absent.
Okay, so we've been going for 2 more hours. Should we have a 5-minute break? Yeah.